Good evening and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show on Friday, the 6th of October. I'm joined by my fellow panelists, Abu and Stops. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good evening.
So, this evening's, I can hear myself there on my recording. This evening's show is around, well, at least to start off with, is talking about orphans, and that may go into adoption as well. Because there's certainly some questions already in the chat box. But before we get to that, anything that you guys want to quickly chat about that you've had during the week? Otherwise, we'll go straight into our crazy comments.
No, go.
All righty, let's get straight into the crazy comments here. It's always a fun part of, well, partly fun. We'll see shortly. Not every single one of them is fun, but we'll see. Am I showing that to everybody now? Present to everybody. There we go. Okay, crazy comment number one. I believe this is from Stops. Some fella here. Go to hell, you kafir. I know who you are. Why you even watch Muslim videos? Fuck you and your mother, the whore. Stop spamming. Go fuck yourself, you Satan worshipper. I know who you are. You will burn in hell forever, and I love it. I want to see you burn, Allah willing. Allahu Akbar. So that was that on your channel?
Yeah.
Obviously venting frustrations. That's the kind of the norm. So I'm sure he'll be back again. Once these sort of commenters start commenting, they tend to come back for other videos. So you'll see them comment again, no doubt. All right, on to number two. Let's make it a bit bigger so everybody can see it. Speaker's Corner Analyze, which is this other channel. Don't edit the videos, you son of the whore, and I will bring you all the proofs, and I will make you eat your own shit like pit bull, Mr. Channel Dog. This is incoherent. Stop. Speaker's Corner Analyze. Why are you quite ask me anything, and I will close your dirty mouth more as I did with the last comment I gave you. Well, there you go, Stops. You are being told no uncertain bad English.
You son of the whore. There's only one in the whole planet. And this whore, this is my mother. And I will bring you all the proofs.
You're certainly getting a few responses here. Obviously, they're obviously subscribing, I guess, to your channel and then taking the time to comment. So obviously, you're getting under the skin a little bit there. All right, let's move on to comment number three. Make it a bit bigger here. Here we go. Official Speakers Corner channel. Here's the guy that you were talking about. None of your comments are being published for all of your channels. Just thought I would let you know. You're blocked on most of the channels. Have a nice day. So I believe that's one of the channel owners.
Yeah, this is the guy where the current video is causing a lot of attention at the moment. A Muslim asked a question, which was flagged as hate speech. Now it's being flagged as misleading. Somebody actually asked, and I don't know if you're going to have this comment later on. Somebody asked, "Listen, are you really doing this?" And saying, "No, we're not doing that. We're just looking at profanity. We're looking." Yep, and then they say, "We're not deleting any channels and any comments." And here they're telling me all yours are deleted.
Yeah, you're blocked on most of them, and none of your comments are being published. So yeah, that's effectively deleting them or blocking them. Cool, we'll come back to that. As you say, it will come up shortly. Another one from yourself. Stop spamming. An atheist makes no claim. The claim of I lack a belief in God is a claim. You are claiming you lack a belief in God. This notion of a negative response not being a claim is utter nonsense and goes against foundational teachings of linguistics. My good sir, if I say 1 + 1 = 2, then you say I reject that. You are therefore saying that you reject the 1 + 1 = 2 and you think it's wrong. As rejecting something means you think it's wrong. I think we've covered this before, haven't we? Rejecting it means that we don't believe you've given enough good reasons or evidence. It could be true, but you haven't given convincing good reasons or evidence.
And so I don't lack anything. This is what people need to understand. I don't lack anything. There's nothing missing from my person that I need to complete by adding this God belief.
Yeah. Cool. Another one from your channel. Obviously, you're getting all the love here. Speaker's Corner Analyze. Dumb crackhead, faggot, you white master, Rob got raped up in the corner. You too pussy to come laugh my ass off. You stupid atheist faggot, dirty little dog. Well, this guy's just, yeah, he's the professional troll, or one of them anyway. So let's not give him too much airtime and just move on. I think he just tries to put as many words together as he can and make incoherent sentence. Here's one of my new favorites. This fellow's joined my channel and is not shy to give his views. This show is ridiculous. Bunch of fussed atheists haven't got anything better to do but misguide people. Only because you guys are lost and haven't got any morals. There's no point doing a pathetic show like this. The person that runs this channel and all the panelists are nothing but ignorant and liars. You atheists have no morals or values at all. In your delusional world, there's nothing wrong with sleeping with your own parents because you guys think we're evolved from apes. Only because you sick people look like apes doesn't mean you're evolved from them. I wonder who looks like apes. That's, I think, look in the mirror moment there. Look in the mirror, buddy. And don't lie on Islam. And the sooner you people are just liars.
Because we lie. We lie on top of Islam.
Yes, we liars. Keep the word Islam out of your filthy mouths. And if you want something to talk about on your pathetic show about atheism, the person who runs the channel knows just to get views, he needs to talk about Islam. Otherwise, no one would bother listening to him. Ape flap lips, looking bacon smelling creature, and your panelists are just lying and misguiding people. Hope you low lives turn back into apes. You speech freedom to insult. Now go crawl into a hole and die.
This is so good.
Brilliant, isn't it? You've got to have a laugh. You've got to, you know. I don't know whether any of these people ever went to school or did anything really. There we go. And there's more to come, I think, from him as well. So it's not the only one. There's some love for Answer as well. Answer Martin, big pussy. Rob is the most ignorant monkey in the park. Well, I'm a descendant of a common ancestor, so do get your facts straight there, brother.
It's a type of ape, not monkey. Okay?
Yes. I swear this Rob Bacon Lips
What's
literally
with your bacon lips?
I don't know, maybe that's anti. I don't even eat bacon anymore, by the way, but there we go. Literally hasn't got anything better to do than try and mock on Islam. Also with his arrogant. Ignorant. Ignorant. There we go. I'm battling to pronounce it here. Foolish panel. You really think people are going to take knowledge on Islam from you deceivers and liars? How dare you, bunch of atheists, talk about women in Islam? Also marriage, when you atheists have no morals or values. Where do you bunch of fools get your morals from as you don't believe in anything? Incest shouldn't be a problem with you fools, as your low lives have nothing to use as guidelines. So how dare you question marriage in Islam, you bunch of hypocrites? Also, Rob, go back to your homeland and stop spreading your foolishness. And if you want to talk about your own foolish beliefs and keep Islam out of your filthy bacon, flat lip, ugly mouth. Also, your panelists are straight up liars. There we go. He spelled it right at the end. Eventually. Maybe that was a mistake. Yes. Liars has turned to liars. There we go.
You know, the funny thing is they tell you to go back to your homeland, and with me, they keep on telling me come to Speaker's Corner, so they can't make up your mind, can they?
No, exactly.
So one as soon as I come to Speaker's Corner, they're going to tell me go back to your homeland too. Yeah.
There we go. Oh dear. No one can convince Rob except Allah. Allah describes these people in the Quran, deaf, dumb, and blind. This was another comment on mine. No one can convince Rob except Allah.
Does show the incompetence of Allah? Allah cannot convince Rob, so nobody can. So Allah is not all powerful.
At least now you're deep. So that's
You're what?
Yes.
You're deep. You have a deep soul.
Deep, did you say? DWP?
Oh, yeah, because in the second one, no one can convince Rob except Allah, deep, dumb, and blind. So it's no longer deaf, but now it's deep.
That's an improvement.
Yes. But if no one except Allah can convince me, and he hasn't done it, as you say, quite rightly say, it stops, then either I'm deaf, dumb, deep, and blind, or he's just hasn't given convincing evidence, which I would humbly submit is the latter. But there we go. All right, moving on. Do atheists die like animal because it's the natural way?
No, we die totally different. We don't die.
And I just replied, all living beings, atheists and theists, die. Which is the natural way? What is your point? Here we go.
We go to heaven because we are the only ones using our brains, or everybody else
guessing-
stays behind.
Yeah, they still die as well. But like an animal, well, how do animals die? They just stop breathing, cease, the body stops operating, which I think is the same for theists last time I looked. But there we go.
Well, Muslims come back as atheists, don't they?
I don't know. Here's my friend again. Definitely needs someone like Bro Shamsi
No.
to expose.
Defiantly.
Sorry, defiantly. Yes, sorry. There we go. I'm actually trying to pronounce it correctly and I'm missing it. Defiantly needs someone like Bro Shamsi to expose these two-faced liars. This was a Shamsi making a complete fool of himself in front of Kalam and Gabs, because they were talking about the universe, how did the universe come? It must have come from God type of thing. And he's just rabbiting on about, God said be and it is type of thing. And so this was the comment in relation to that video. It's on YouTube if you go look it up there. He came down to try and expose them. And all he did was talk nonstop, interrupt them, and then have a monologue to camera by himself. That's a great way to expose. Not. Rob, go suck your mom out of... go suck your mom. You out of shape, bold. Bold? I think he means bald. The spelling here, I don't know if it's... They need autocorrect or something. You bold cunt. There we go. Spelling, gentlemen.
Go suck your mum, you. Wow.
I wasn't sure at first. I had to reread this one. Laugh out loud. Rob, do atheists only debate with Muslims? It seems all your channel is geared towards Islam. Keep it up. We need the publicity so we can't get this misgas, I don't know what that's supposed to be, over with sooner or later. How was the recovery from the Sabur trashing you received? I don't know what that word is supposed to be. There we go. So pretty much most of the time I do, but if you actually go and watch all the videos, Kat Loran, then you'd see occasionally I do debate with Christians, but not as often. So here was the first time I've actually received what could be considered a veiled threat. So here we go from my threatening fellow here, Mozam. Rob, you obviously show that you hate for Islam, that you're always talking about it. Nothing better in life. You came out of Africa with your slavery beliefs on black people. Now you have no slaves. You have found Muslims. Such a low life. I see you in the park. Maybe I should give you a surprise of your life. And of course, I'm reading it not quite as he says it. I'll sort out a plan for you. I've made sure you will always remember. Don't worry, your day will come for your persistent talks on others' beliefs. You want to take this to its end, then I'll take you there.
What?
Pray to the end, yes. Pray when your day comes. I'll make sure we put it up on YouTube. Don't worry, keep coming back to the pub. I'll take this disease out of your miserable life. I've got the medicine. So it's the first time I've received one quite like that. So obviously...
Oh, you haven't received death threats?
No, this is the sort of
You're doing
first
something
time.
wrong. I get them all the time.
And then,
Welcome to the club.
Then Abu put there, I think you provided us with a crazy comment for next week's show. Thanks. Violence in Islam. And then I responded.
Oh, this is actually good. That was excellent.
Then I responded at the bottom, is this how you follow the religion of peace? By threatening someone who speaks out against Islam? This is part of the reason why I and many others speak out about Islam. There are more and more of us than you, and we will continue to speak. So there we go. I just want to see if I can bring up your one here, if I can find that you just sent me.
It worked the second time.
Hang on a sec. What's this one here? Oh, I did like this. This wasn't crazy belief, but this was a reply to that fella. Mozam, maybe Rob can give you a big surprise in return, like a spelling lesson. I thought that was just so good. Well done, thinking clearly. That wasn't a crazy comment. That was a great comment, but it was in response to a crazy comment. So I do like that one. Now let me just see if I can find Stops' one again. Where did I put your one, Stops? I just want to see. I thought I'd copied it over. Here we go. Is it this one? Yes, here we go. A bit bigger.
That's the one that I was talking about.
Please, go ahead.
Let me explain this quickly, because remember...
Well, read it first and then explain it. So
I made a video and it was flagged as hate. Then I did it again and it was flagged as being misleading. my comments have been deleted, and now there's an Abu Ibu going into official, this is the name of the channel, Official Speakers Corner Channel, #Dawa, okay? And this guy is now asking, brothers, are you deleting comments? There's a video by an atheist, which is me, claiming you are deleting comments on this video, and he's providing proof in the video. And I'll skip the rest, because in the bottom now he says, if we hold the truth, then we shouldn't be afraid of non-Muslim comments that are critical. Now, what Official Speakers Corner now answers, and this is the hypocrisy, this is the definition, right? We filter all comments for profanity. Now, all I did is I made 2 or 3 comments, and then I asked 2 or 3 questions, and that's all. And I did this twice. And then somebody else said, of course they delete critical comments. Are you surprised? And now Official Speakers Corner Channel Dawa says, we do not delete comments. We have to clear comments for publication. Okay, sometimes you can have to clear half. Again, profanity. And we are now deleting the profanity-laden comments and then just doing a mass approve instead. Now, instead, and now, I don't get this. I don't know how Muslims can be so stupid. We do not delete comments, they say. And yet to me, they send, shared privately, none of your comments are being published from all of your channels. Just thought to let you know. You're being blocked at all the channels. Have a nice day. So in other words, they're saying we do not delete comments except yours. Yours are being blocked and they don't appear. We delete all your comments. So they are saying we do not delete comments, but we clear comments for publication. This means that anything with profanity, we delete. So he says we do not delete comments, but we are now deleting profanity. So they are deleting comments. And then they're saying we do not delete comments, but they're telling me, well, your comments are being deleted just out of definition. All yours are gone. That's it. This is how Muslims are playing. And this is what Sam Harris calls playing tennis without the net. This is all they have left. They cannot reply using rational thinking, logical thinking. They cannot critical think. They cannot come up with anything. So the only thing they've got left is censorship.
Sorry.
Yeah, agreed. And TDS Dave is saying in the comments, Speakers Corner official, if you try commenting to him elsewhere, he tries shutting you down. He's fragile. So, yeah, there's obviously a fair amount of that going on. So that's our crazy comments for this week. There's quite a lot more. So again, if you come across any, please do notify me, send them over. It's always entertaining and sometimes educational to get some of these comments. So thank you very much. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleagues because you two are more versed in this than I am. So what is it with orphans and adoption? How does Islam treat this? And give us the story, educate me as well, please.
Abu, will you go? Then I can go. Hops get some spops. No, Stops gets hops.
I haven't prepared anything really. But maybe we can say something about, I mean, in general, as I said last week, if you want to say something good about Islam, I think the Quran and the Sunnah encourage people to take care of orphans. So that's pretty much what I have to say. But then there's also this question of abortion. No, not abortion, adoption. Adoption. Do you remember this story when there is a story when the Prophet, what was it? Was it that he married his adopted son's wife? And then the rulings about adoption changed. So there's no adoption, but you still take care of the child, but you don't say anything like, you don't call it that this is your child. You call that you're taking care of this child, but it's still the father and the mother that are the real parents, so to speak. You understand? That's a short summary.
Okay, so you're taking care of the child,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. So that's not problematic in any way, or is there a problem there that I'm missing?
No, not really. Of course, then there is questions about like if you take care of a female orphan and so on. But that's a little bit technical. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a huge problem. Because the Quran says look after orphans. So what happened is that people then took the orphans to get the inheritance from their estate. And this is why then the ulema, the
Scholars.
they came up with this ruling, this legal ruling, that the status of a child that you are adopting is not the same status as your own child, so that you cannot go and claim the inheritance. When this was done, it stopped. You were still supposed to take care of orphans, and you could still adopt them, but they had a separate status. They had their own estate, so they could keep everything that they were inheriting and what belonged to them, because there was a lot of fraud going on. When Muhammad came around, this changed, because he was allowed to suddenly go and make claims to, for example, the wife of an orphan by marrying his own daughter-in-law, because the son was not a real son, but was an adopted son. So there's a lot of things going on here between the lines, where on the one hand, in 4.3, for example, it says that you should look after the orphans, and you should not take what is part of the orphans, and that is why you should marry 3 or 4 or whatever women, if you can afford it and take care of them. And this is the ruling that prompted the whole thing, to make sure that the orphans were taken care of, but you could not simply go and adopt someone to take care of the inheritance, but you could still go and marry your own daughter-in-law, who was also your cousin.
And when did this happen? I mean, it was this obviously in the life of Muhammad at some point, and more or less when?
Well, it's supposed to have happened during Muhammad's lifetime, because it was Muhammad who went to see his own adopted son. He was not there, and his wife was there, apparently naked or half naked, completely half, I don't know how much naked. And he liked what he saw, and he says, yes, you got a beautiful wife. And he immediately went and divorced her, so that Muhammad could marry her.
This is like one of the weirdest stories.
Yeah,
it's
sick.
But it's also kind of like Allah sent down a whole ayah in the Quran for this reason. Some argue that the point of this ayah is to say, because the same ayah that says that he is the seal of the prophets. So the point of the ayah is to say that he is the seal of the prophets. But it's kind of weird. Why do they wrap it in this story? I mean, so there are two kind of fiqh things that you can derive from that. First, there's no abortion any longer. And secondly, the prophet is the seal, or Muhammad is the seal of the prophets.
When you say seal, what do you mean by that?
He's the last prophet. There will be no more prophet.
So what do you...
Except for the ones that came after him.
Yeah, but of course, the Muslims don't believe that.
They are fake. They are fake. However, Jesus or Isa will come back, and in the time of Dajjal and the Mahdi, he will pray behind Mahdi in Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem or Quds. And first Mahdi will say to him, "Oh no, you are a prophet, you're higher than me, so you can pray, you should pray." And he will say, "No, I will not pray before someone from Muhammad's ummah, from Muhammad's nation." So Jesus will pray behind Mahdi.
And then kill him.
No, not kill him. Jesus will kill pigs and break crosses.
Yeah, but he will defeat the Mahdi.
Not Mahdi, Dajjal.
Oh, sorry, the Dajjal. He will defeat the Dajjal and then lead everybody and judge everybody who will go to heaven.
Well, I mean, that's a whole topic for maybe. There's a lot of things that happen at once. So there's Gog and Magog, and there is Dajjal.
Yeah, but there's also
and
differences
Mahdi.
between the Shia and the Sunni now.
Yeah. For them, the Mahdi is
The 12th.
He's special dude.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to get your thoughts on this part of it here. I found something that's obviously on a Muslim site that I was interested in. The rights of an orphan in Islam. An orphan is a person who has lost his father or both his parents before the age of maturity. The Prophet was an orphan too, and as such, orphans hold a special place in Islam. Anyone whom Allah has chosen to be the guardian of an orphan must be steadfast and must give these rights to the child. The right to be raised, the right to an inheritance, the right to child support. Would you guys agree with that?
No. Child support, yes, but not the inheritance. This is the whole point. This is what was changed. You're not allowed to inherit. You're not allowed to adopt someone.
Okay, so here's a couple of verses. Maybe you can just comment on these. Indeed, those who devour the property of orphans unjustly are also consuming into their bellies fire, and they will be burned in a blaze. Quran Al-Nizya 10.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was just saying. Yeah.
But that is like, say that the Prophet, the orphan has some money from his deceased parents. Then if the protector, if you're taking care of an orphan and you take that money and use it for themselves, that is clearly not allowed.
Exactly.
Unless it's something you have to do, like you really, really have to survive, but then you can only take so much so you can survive. There's a whole, we're talking about Al-Uthaymin made his tafsir on Surah An-Nisa. He talks long about this. If you know Arabic, you can listen to that, Surah An-Nisa.
Well, obviously none of us do. Only you do, I think. Well, not only you, but...
Yeah, but those in the chat.
Yeah. Here's another verse as well. And give to the orphans their property, and do not substitute worthless things for their good ones, and do not devour their property to your own property. This is surely a great sin. Surah Al-Nizra 4-2.
Yep.
So what they're claiming here, though, is that it's saying, look after the orphans and don't treat them unjustly, essentially.
And by the way, just as a snippet, this is one of the 17 sentences in the Quran where you do not have, which are beneficial, which are benevolent, and do not have anything with Allah at the end, because all the other sentences always have, and Allah is wise, all-knowing, and blah, blah, blah. These don't. And there's only 17 of these in the entire Quran.
What's the significance of that? Did the author forget, or is there some reason
these
why
are
that's not
sentences which were not included in the beginning as a quote from God.
Yeah, that's why I always got the feeling when you read Surah An-Nisa that this is written in a completely different style. It's
Exactly.
A boring, bureaucratic style.
Yeah.
Right. I want to ask you guys something related to this, which is obviously a little bit of what you talked about, because there's been a comment then, and it was asked last week, and perhaps we can expand upon it a bit now. The marriage of Muhammad with Zainab. So who was she? How come he married her? And what were the consequences of that? Which obviously touches on what we've just talked about. But somebody in the comments has asked for us, or especially for you guys, because you know more about it than I do, to elaborate on that whole scenario.
Abu, do you want to go?
Zainab, dude, let me look up an hadith. I don't remember everything.
Oh, okay. So just as a background, Zainab was the wife of the adopted son. And this is what I just explained.
This was
Muhammad saw
exactly.
her and then decided that he liked her And then the adopted son will, well, if you like her, then I will stand back and I will divorce her so that you can marry her. He stood back, divorced her, and then she became the property of Muhammad.
Yeah, exactly.
But wouldn't okay, so did he only do that because he was the adopted son, or did he do that because Muhammad asked him and he felt like, okay, Muhammad, you're the main guy, I'm going to do whatever you want?
I think it's both.
Oh, okay. Because presumably if Muhammad had wanted any other woman from any of his followers and they were married, they would probably have divorced as well, wouldn't they?
Yes, that's what it says.
Okay. So it wasn't just the fact that that he was an orphan. It was more or at least as much the fact that Muhammad was the main guy, and so whatever Muhammad wanted, they did whatever they could to sort of please him.
Yeah.
I have got a Muslim who's joined us, so let me just... Oh, it's Soy.
Yeah. I've got 2 accounts, so I thought, why not use this one?
Soy.
Hello, Mohammed.
Welcome back. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good. Obviously, we've been chatting here about orphans and about the adoption and so forth. Have you got any thoughts from your point of view?
Are you talking about the story of when he married his adopted...
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Wait. What was the name of the... It was Zed, I think it was.
Zainab, I think it is.
Zainab was the name of the wife, but I think
No, he was Said.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about that, but I mean, if it's not really his real son, is it? So
no, and I think that's part of the point we were talking about there.
Yeah.
And of course, when he saw Zainab, then what was the guy's name? Remind me the guy's name.
Zed.
Said. But
Zaid.
does that make it better?
That he's not related?
Yeah.
I suppose so, because that's how it was done.
Because I can't see that it makes it any better.
I mean, the wife, she wanted to marry him, I think, as well.
Have you got any details on that? Because I've always heard it that he saw her. I mean, obviously she didn't resist necessarily, but I've not heard anything, and maybe there is something, but I've not heard anything where she voiced her desire for him.
I'll take a look.
Okay.
Women don't have that.
What's that?
And somebody just commenting, atheists just talk about Islam they don't believe in. I believe in Islam. I believe Islam exists. I believe Islam is very real. I just don't think and don't hold anything of it. I don't hold it in great esteem. And I think there's nothing in it that is useful for anyone. But it definitely exists.
Yeah, I think whoever that questioner, whoever that commenter is confusing 2 different things. We don't believe the claims of Islam, but we do believe that the ideology in fact does exist, and not only that, but it has consequences in this world. If Muslims lived on an island and didn't interact with anybody else in the world, and they just did whatever they did on their own island, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be going, do you know what? They can get on with doing whatever they want. But when the ideology spreads, and some, not all, of course, some Muslims then want to take up some of the rather unpleasant parts as they understand it or interpret it, then obviously that's what we want to interrogate and find problematic. Now, again, I wouldn't be going over to Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, or anywhere else and telling them, okay, you have to build Christian churches. Okay, I want to be an atheist and speak in the street. I want to establish Speaker's Corner in Saudi Arabia or elsewhere and say whatever I want. A, I wouldn't be able to do it, but B, they wouldn't accept that, and I wouldn't go there attempting to do that. Or I might ask very politely, would that be possible? But I certainly wouldn't demand it. And I think that's part of what we notice here. You know, we're very open to having people from all around the world with different cultures and ideologies. But ultimately, you know, this country is a secular, pretty much, although it's based on, you know, Christian values, it's far more secular. And less people identify as Christians, certainly from a real deep Christian. And so when you come here, there's laws and rules that we follow here. And some of the beliefs that some people take from the Quran are incompatible with our society. Now, when you have an incompatibility, then one or the other has to give way. And as far as we're concerned here, and it maybe I only speak for myself looking at it from the UK, you need to fit in with how we do things here. We're not going to change the laws, particularly if we find, the incompatibilities quite repulsive or immoral, then we're not going to fit in with them. You need to fit in with us or go find yourself somewhere else. So that's why, part of why we talk a lot about this. So I do want to also welcome in there Glasscastle. This gentleman asked if he could join. He is a Muslim as well. He said to me he speaks to many different people from the US and elsewhere. So Glasscastle, welcome. Good evening. Feel free to share with us a little bit of who you are and your interest in joining the show.
You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can indeed. You're coming through clearly.
Well, all right. I think I came on with you guys, I think about like 3 weeks ago, or a month ago, something like that.
Did you come on and you had your buddy in the background on the camera?
Oh, no, that wasn't me, but I was, no, there was, I think I know who you're talking about. There was 2 people on one account.
That's
Are you
right,
talking
yes.
about? No, I'm not that. I'm not that.
Okay, cool. Oh, he's dropped off there. He must have, we didn't kick him, so nobody suggests we didn't kick anybody. He's just dropped off. Just said he left the group here. There we go. Let's bring you back again. Something happened there. Something happened there. You dropped off. Are you on a mobile or on a laptop or? Glass, can you hear us? Hello, Glass. Are you there?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah,
Somebody
it
said
keeps
No,
like meeting myself.
We didn't kick anybody. Are you on a mobile or are you on like a cell phone or are you on a laptop?
No, laptop. I have a good internet connection. I shouldn't have any problems.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we always get occasionally somebody in the chat saying that we kicked you. There's no point in having you on the show and kicking you. I mean, that's just, So yeah, please feel free to share a little bit, whatever you're comfortable in sharing. Just tell us a little bit about you and, your interest in joining. Because you did say you've joined before, but I don't remember you. So please share again if you wouldn't mind.
All right. So basically, the interest that I have in joining the show is basically, I think a lot of the issues that you guys talk about is very, I would say some of the stuff that you guys talk about, it's more like certain scholars don't know that these questions exist itself, so therefore they never respond to the questions because they don't even know that they exist. So for example, I would say it's not necessarily like questions. It could be sometimes it could be just the simple concepts that, I feel that, certain people within the atheist community or the communities that are pretty much analyzing like Islam in particular, they make certain, I wouldn't say mistakes. I would say more like stuff that doesn't go along the lines of what, the scholars say. For example, today, what's his name again? What's his name? The person who's just recently on the whole scene of, making videos. I think it's not Mufassir Salam, the other guy. Help me with the name. I forgot what his name. He was on that day.
Saracen?
No, not that. Not Saracen. He's a person. He just came on he's from Florida, I think. He wants to.
Inverted.
Yes. That's the person that I'm talking about. So he uploaded a video today, and he was talking about how like he was giving a translation of an ayah, and I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was ayah 54 from the second surah. So it's 254. So he gave a translation that I don't think other people would agree to his translation. So I think the people on the other side, like the Muslim side, are like, what the heck is this what is he translating? And the people that are like, I wouldn't say like him, but like people like that, are making assumptions about the religion are saying like, oh yeah, in the religion it says to go kill yourself. You get what I'm saying? So I'm here like, wait a second, how come this problem exists? Why don't I think the problem exists because there's no one, there isn't any platform. Like this is a platform where I could speak my mind, and you guys, I think last time everything happened, I would say a good 80% of it was pretty much respectful. But, at least it's somewhere we could start talking, have a, a conversation, I think a dialogue, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think on that particular point, from my perspective, and I won't speak for my fellow panelists, but from my perspective, if an all-powerful, all-knowledgeable supreme being was sending us a message, from my point of view, I would expect and demand, I would suggest, that it be crystal clear and that no interpretation is required, and that the message is so clear that every single human that read it could understand it immediately, and particularly the important bits. Now, it could be, that some things, but again, I battle to accept from my point of view that a supreme being understanding us and having created us could not make it crystal clear every single thing that either he wanted us to do or to know, or whatever the case is. So when people go to scholars, again, from my point of view, oftentimes they are giving us their subjective opinion. Now, they might try and give us reasons, etc. But if it's particularly Muslim scholars, then immediately in my mind, I feel like they have a bias. They have a bias to present Islam in a particular way. Now, when somebody's critical of Islam and they're Muslim, now they've got my attention. So when somebody like Majid Nawaz, for example, brings up certain things, now he's got my attention. Now, I don't agree with everything, and I would challenge him on a few questions myself. But now I think somebody's being a bit more critical. Otherwise, the scholars are tending to try and find an answer to something to make it sound plausible, or whatever the case is, to certain people.
Is it okay if I reiterate some of your stuff, because I want to, jot down some of the points you said?
Sure, go ahead.
So basically what you're saying is that there's kind of like a bias. It's like a preset bias. Either you agree with us or you're a kafir, get the hell out of my face. That's like the type of attitude that certain scholars have. Was that summed down some of what you said?
I mean, obviously some scholars have got that, but what I'm talking about is a more general point that if this book was in fact directly dictated, then it should be crystal clear, and no interpretation should be required. Like it would say, for example, here's just a crazy example, like, okay, human beings, I created you. You should visit the toilet twice a day after eating to relieve yourself. Now, nobody would go, let me try and interpret that. Does he mean 3 times? Does it mean directly after a meal? Does it mean just before the next meal? So that sort of a thing. And if these commands, etc., are for us to be followed, etc., then that's the more general point from my point of view. So some scholars will say whatever they want. Other scholars will be more kind of open-minded, but it's a more general point that I'm bringing.
So you're saying basically the whole concept of interpretation shouldn't exist if it's like coming from God.
Correct. If it's straightforward, if it's crystal clear. Okay, or let me put it this way. Why do you think there should be interpretation from all knowledgeable, all powerful, supreme being that knows us, has created us, and presumably would know exactly how to communicate with us? So there could be no misinterpretation. So that on the day of judgment, supposedly, we would have no excuse. At the moment, I feel like I've got a lot of excuse.
All right, so it's, I guess okay. So what I wanted to say is there anyone else that's Muslim here besides Muhammad?
Yeah, man, but I wouldn't say I'm that knowledgeable, dude.
Scholar, yeah.
Yeah.
It's Allah Asghar. Okay, the guy that's named Allah Asghar, I know.
No, the other 2 panelists are non-believers.
I know, but one of you guys is very knowledgeable regarding the Islam religion, right?
Well, both of them are, so they both know a lot more about the Quran and Hadith than I do. So
probably even more than us.
Probably, possibly, yes.
But
Probably,
then
yeah.
this is the question: why do you think the Quran is in ancient Arabic?
It's not in Arabic. Well, technically speaking, the Arabic, the language Arabic itself actually comes from Syriac and Aramaic, correct? Technically speaking, right?
Well, no, not really, because there's a lot of Nabatean in there as well.
But my point is, there is no original Arabic. There is no, like, you can't say Arabic is there's only one Arabic, because it's constantly changing. It's like a compilation of many different dialects and stuff like that.
And that is why I was very careful to say ancient Arabic. This is why I asked, why is it in ancient Arabic?
This is like the Quran, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, you see, that's why I was asking if there was any other scholars. I think the other person that I don't know, I'm not good with the names. So one of the points that I wanted to make is that a lot of the interpretation stuff, right? a lot of scholars today, even now, say the Salafi movement, right? They don't believe that you have to, believe in the literal, what do you say? The whole, how like they translate the Arabic, and then they take like they have like 1,000 different perspectives, and they say that it could be one of them. On certain ayats, they say that, tafsir, it could be this or it could be that. Oh, this school said this. There's 4 madhabs, and majority of Muslims don't know that there isn't 4 madhabs. There's more than 16 madhabs, and so the different scholars. So these 16 madhabs, all these 16, like let's just say 4. So the more 4 madhabs, some of the madhabs do take certain interpretations in certain ways. But my point is, there is also a group that says that those are interpretations that they say that works for them, or should I say, you can't say absolute. You have to follow the tafsir in absolute. So the tafsir is always going to be an understanding of a specific scholar, right? And like, I don't think anyone has the capacity of like doing ijtihad today, but the original, like, since you asked this question, that why is it Arabic? How come it has to be a translation? The whole concept of translating and understanding shouldn't be there. Like, why is it like, what's his name again? Rob said, it could be, 3 times, go to the bathroom or whatnot. How, like, what are the timings and whatnot? So those interpretations, those are all basically tafsirs given by different people. If you look at the tafsir, the big tafsir books, I can't remember any of the names for some reason right now.
Jalalain, doesn't matter.
Yeah, Jalalain. Even if you look at those tafsirs, you'll see difference of opinions within the book itself. So it's not an absolute. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're not answering the question, because I asked, why do you think it was or the Quran is today in ancient Arabic? Why is it in that language when there are a lot more precise languages around?
Oh, that's a good question. So I guess the Arabic, I don't really have an answer for that, because this is a question that, like I was said in the beginning, there are certain questions that literally the scholar, I'm not a scholar, there are majority of the scholars don't even know the questions that are.
No. This is your personal opinion. I'm not asking a scholar. I'm asking you personally. Why do you think it was that the Quran is in ancient Arabic? What do you think about this? Why?
Well, the Quran is written in Arabic. It seems to be preserved, majority of it. I would say there's very little arguments, like the arguments that are available today to say that the book has been corrupted are not as valid.
No, that's not the point. The point is just, why is it not in a precise language like English or Italian? Why is it in ancient Arabic?
What do you mean by precise?
In English, it is, if you use, why do you think?
So there can't be any interpretation of the English.
All the technical, all the terms are all English. If you look at business, if you look at technical, if you look at any sector which requires precise descriptions, they use English, because English is a very precise language. The first 2 levels are okay, but the 3rd and 4th are incredibly precise. That is why most of the scientists, everybody uses English today, because it's incredibly precise. Why wouldn't a god use English if it is so precise, instead of taking Arabic in its ancient form of 1400 years ago, which is incredibly vague and requires interpretation left, right, and center? Why do you think a language like this was used as opposed to a precise language, which wouldn't require interpretation, which would, as Rob says, be very, very precise in telling us what exactly to do?
I can now understand your question. All right, so the answer that I would give to this question is what I heard in my class many, many years ago. So your question, let me say it again. So your question is basically, why basically the Arabic language, there's so many interpretations. The reason why there are multiple interpretations is because the structure of the language, the way the language literally is it's always vague. if you look at any of the sentences, it's almost majority of the time you could make a different understanding. Like someone else can say it could mean this too, and there is little argument you can make. But in English, everything is much more precise rather than Arabic. Is that right?
Correct. And this is why I was asking you why you think that is.
The answer that I have received from the teacher, I think he's still alive. Probably ask him.
Your opinion, not your teacher's opinion. Your opinion.
No, my teacher's opinion is my opinion. So I'm going to tell you what my teacher said. My teacher said that basically the Quran is a book from God, and if it were to be precise, then all the different, the Quran is supposed to be a way of life, right? So if everything were to be precise, then there would be so much more to be written, because you would have to precisely answer every possible question. Not necessarily every possible question, but you would have to be able to extract much more. But because it's a more vague book, you can actually, there's more leeway, or you could bend certain things and actually use the one ayat for multiple, for multiple reasonings. For example,
Glass, do you think that's a good thing? Because you're saying what your teacher said, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, the moment somebody said that to me, I'd be like,
that's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, that you've got that backwards. Why not give us a big tome that gives us the precise instructions or whatever we need? I mean, the God obviously knows what's going to happen.
So the reason why a person might think that's crazy is because that would mean that you would have conflict guaranteed then. Conflict as in one person would take one type of interpretation, another person would say that obviously there would be conflict, right? So how does
you mean there would be conflict if it was precise, or conflict if it was vague?
No, if it was vague, in which it is vague.
Yeah, so it's got conflict. So is that a good thing?
So is that a good thing? Obviously not. But I would say the answer to that would be, at the Prophet's time, there was this one incident where basically the Prophet, there was an argument like this, where there was it's basically the same thing. There was opinion where one thing should be done, and then there was another opinion for something else to be done. So when the question came to the Prophet, he said both sides are correct. So my point is, even though if you take the Quran and you actually bend it your own way, it's actually completely jaiz to do that. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, so how come
is the Quran only valid for Muhammad, or is it valid today?
No. Oh, of course it's valid for us today.
Okay, if you look at the language that is being used in the Quran, where every single sentence requires interpretation, why do you think this was done?
I don't think every single sentence requires interpretation, in the sense that we have to stick to certain interpretations of, the scholars of the past. A lot of the scholars themselves who wrote this stuff, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which ayat it was, but there are certain ayats where the interpretation on the bottom, they say that, refer to some other scholar, which my point is that a lot of the scholars themselves were not in absolute, they weren't, committed enough to say that, oh, this is what I believe and this is what you should believe also. They say,
is there anything that you can do and say and think for yourself?
Yeah, of course. Like if a person picks up the Quran and reads it and follows it how he wishes, there's nothing wrong with it.
But whenever I ask you, you immediately go to the scholars say this, people say, can you make your mind up yourself?
Well, right now, so you're saying, like, do I require? No. Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. You're saying basically, well, how come I don't have my own decisions regarding the religion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say a good 80% to 90% is pretty much my decision. I don't necessarily take the interpretation from another person. It's basically, if you like, could you give me an example of what I
do you think the Quran is created or uncreated?
It's not created. It's
okay. Why do you think that?
Simple belief.
Okay, but okay, based on what?
Well, I don't require like a. Okay, I think you asked me this question last time too. I personally do not require like an anchor to believe in what I believe in due to, I don't know if you ever studied, I forgot what it's called. There's a thing called, in moral philosophy, there's this one thing where basically you have certain beliefs because of certain things that happen to you throughout your life. So the reasons why I believe in what I believe in, I don't expect anyone else to believe in it, because I believe in what I believe in because of certain things that played out in my life in a specific way. So the belief sets that I have, I'm not going to say that, oh, you have to have the same belief sets because you never experienced what I've experienced. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's more like I don't have an anchor that I could show you to say that, oh, this is my anchor, and therefore you shall believe. It's more like, it's kind of like Christians say this a lot. It's kind of like the, I talk to Jesus kind of thing.
Okay, but why don't you maintain that?
As in?
Why did you maintain, I believe what I believe because of what I believe, because of personal conviction or something? Why do you immediately go, well, the scholars say this, the scholars say that?
Oh, that's a good, because a lot of the stuff that you guys say, right? Because this is a platform where you guys are talking about different things, and your arguments are based on the scholars, it's a lot of the stuff that for example, I'm talking about the guy that I talked about just a few minutes ago. I forgot his name again, the Florida guy. Inverted. So he was using the tafsir of Ibn Kathir. Yeah, Ibn Kathir, I think. I'm not sure if he used that one, but yeah, so he was using that. So a lot of the stuff, a lot of the sources you guys cite is based on, scholars or, people that you guys cite, right?
No. It's the other way around. I go and present my own opinion, but I know that people like you love hearing if this comes from a person of authority. So I go and adapt and adopt your kind of talk, your kind of attitude, so that I will go and take the hadiths, which in my eyes are totally meaningless. I don't even believe that Muhammad existed, but I take Muhammad as having existed just to make an argument, to be able to communicate with people. So I go and take that and take the point of authority, the point of other scholars, to go and to be able to argument, just to be able to, to have a dialogue. Otherwise, if I go and say, well, God doesn't believe, Muhammad didn't exist, blah, 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 what's the point?
Okay,
then we can stop.
Okay, then let me add on to what you just said. I totally agree. And then what I just said kind of doesn't make sense to you, then it shouldn't make sense, because I'm saying what I'm saying based on what majority of the people on this platform the majority of the people that are listening nowadays. There are very few number of people that talk the way you talk. And I told you this before. You have, like you said, you don't believe that the prophet existed. Like, you genuinely believe that there was never a person, right?
Right.
Yeah, like the whole concept of the religion is basically came out of air, nowhere. It's like literally just
no. Oh, no. It's a recruitment. Come on. I mean,
yes.
You have to look at the history.
Yeah, basically the prophet was a shill. It was basically a cover.
Figurehead.
Yeah, it's a cover story, and either to push an agenda.
Yes,
that's what you believe.
Correct.
Exactly. So there's a very few number, even within the atheist community, there aren't many people that, like, are in line with you, correct?
But that doesn't matter, does it?
No. So my answer is,
I assume that Muhammad existed because everybody talks about him, but it could be that he never existed. But I'm being as charitable as I can and say, okay, he existed. Let's interrogate. How did he live? What did he say? What was the message for mankind? Because that's what you guys believe. So, and Stops is doing the same. He just has a firm belief that Muhammad never existed. I'm open-minded as to whether he existed. I assume he did. Most historians, I won't use Mohammed, most historians seem to suggest that Jesus existed. I've got no problem. If the majority of historians say that Muhammad existed, I will accept that. But obviously then we need to interrogate the rest of it. So, and maybe Stops has good reasons. Maybe we could talk about that at some point as to why he doesn't believe Muhammad existed at all. And I know
or Jesus or Moses, yeah.
So if the majority of scholars do say that, the historians say that Jesus, for example, exists, or Muhammad, I'll take the majority opinion of the consensus of the experts. But if there's some good reason why they should be ignored, then obviously I'm open to listening to that, because I would do the same for other things. So I've got to be consistent. You know, I take evolution. I'm not an expert on evolution, but I take the consistent evidence of the majority of experts in that field, and I'll do the same for historians. And so if they all say that this guy existed in some form, I'm happy to take that. But it doesn't matter whether I agree with Stops or not. It's really about what was said.
Yeah.
Now, whether Muhammad existed or not, that small point, it's a big point in one sense, but a small point in the great scheme of things, because we can still carry on and talk about it as if he existed. Now, I'm happy to believe that he did, until you know there's some other reason. But it's what he said, how did he behave, and what was the message, and that's really the more important bit. So it doesn't matter whether Stops believes in Muhammad personally or not. It's what did he say? If you guys believe that, then that's what we're going to look at and say, hey, you know, is this true? Is it moral? Is it something that should still be followed, etc.?
Do you see why okay, so the reason why I speak like I use like sources and stuff like that is because a majority of the people that I've spoken with within the atheist community usually understand the sources, and they talk with sources, right? So you guys also, like you said, you guys refer to the sources just to, you know, like you said, being charitable. To have the conversation, you have to, you know, agree to, you know, okay, fine, you have a prophet now. So why do you believe it? So you needed to have the conversation. You guys say temporarily, I guess, that you believe that there was a prophet, right? So the reason why I say that, you know, I use the sources because, you know, sometimes there aren't many people, like back to what I said, there aren't many people that I can, like, you know, that I've talked to that don't use sources, like Stop Spamming. But what I would say to Stop Spamming is I think some of the, I told you this before, like, for example, I can't remember, I think it's Richard Dawkins or whatnot. So he was talking about how moral philosophy is like different people have different perspective regarding moral philosophy. How do you get your morals, right? So someone asked him, the whole concept of morality, it's based on, if the person believes in a God, then it's based on parameters that were built by their God or their prophet or whatnot.
No, it's not.
Say that again.
It's not.
The principles of morality from religion are sometimes based on the moral, you know, principles set by their prophets or the God's book or whatnot. Is that not correct?
It's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not.
Can you explain? Elaborate.
Okay. If you look at yourself, do you keep slaves?
No.
Okay.
But do I think it's okay?
I don't think that. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you don't think it's okay. But what I'm saying is that nobody today will keep slaves, because I think everybody today thinks it's wrong. So what is the basis for rejecting slavery if all the gods propagate it?
No. Okay, so I obviously respectfully disagree with you on that. So I would say Muslims do not believe that even today, that, you know, you cannot keep slaves even for today. Obviously, the conditions have changed, but it's not like the conditions have changed enough. Like, if we have another war, then we would have slaves again.
No, we wouldn't.
No, I'm saying from an Islamic perspective.
Would you?
Muslims
Okay, but then if that's the case, then I would respectfully say to you, then that's backward, because nowhere else in modern day warfare are people taken as slaves. They're taken as prisoners of war, and there's a very big difference. So if Muslims now had a war and took slaves, that would be immoral, and we would. And so if that is in fact the case that you believe that, then that's immoral. That's another reason why we wouldn't accept that.
What I'm saying is that those parameters still exist, and Muslims do believe that.
Believe what?
Like, believe that if there were another war, then it's totally fine for them to, you know, instead of having prisoners of war, you would have slaves of war. And obviously they would be treated like this Islamic tradition of how slaves were treated, but it's not necessarily the way that a lot of people, you know,
why do they have to be slaves? Why can't they just be prisoners of war and treated humanely and respectfully?
So
why do they need to be owned by somebody?
All right, there's a person named Omar Suleiman. I'm doing the thing again. So I'm referring to a guy. He's an Islamic scholar within America, and he explains how the prisoners of war that you guys refer to, the type of life or the type of justification, the type of judgment they face. Like obviously, if you're a prisoner of war, you're facing a type of judgment because you were caught after trying to kill the wrong side. You just happened to be on the losing side. So the type of treatment that a war prisoner would get today is pretty much the same, and I think he would argue that it's pretty much the same thing. But in the Islamic tense, like even like the slavery, like in Islam, if you become a slave after a war, you can't. He explains this much. It's like a 4-hour, 4-hour thing lecture he gave. I don't know if you guys heard it, but he explains how it's not like how the whole sex part is what you guys have a problem with. There's a lot of other problems too.
The main problem I have, before you carry on the Glass, is one human being owning another human being. That is completely and utterly immoral, and it should never be the case at all in any circumstance ever. Now,
okay.
For him to go into blabber on about, excuse my language, blabber on for 4 hours about how that's okay, and in fact it's the same as a prisoner of war, it's not. And if he was on this call, I would call him out.
What's the objective of a prisoner of war? What's the objective? Why not kill him off?
No, Glass, we're going way off now, because now we're going into details which are really irrelevant. We were talking about the morality being issued by gods, and this is the point that I'm saying that most Muslims today, most Muslims today are better than their God. And this is the thing that Muslims need to accept, that the God in the Islam, the way that it is depicted in the Quran and even worse in the Hadiths, is not a moral person.
Okay, let me finish off.
Or whatever.
Okay, let me finish off what I was saying to Rob. So the objective, like Omar Suleiman, he was saying, that the objective of the whole slavery thing isn't to have a person like another human being under your ownership. It's more to reintegrate those people of war back into society rather than having someone that you own. You get what I'm saying?
No, but that's not correct. Like a prisoner of war, say for example, if we take the invasion of Europe after D-Day, the Western American English troops, they went in, and sometimes they took German prisoners. And after the war, when everything was settled, they were freed again, unless they had committed war crimes. So, but in Islam, you can have the option to kill all men, like in like what's happened in some cases with certain Jewish tribes. But if you take a prisoner of war, then you can take him as a slave, and even way after the war is over, he's still your slave. And that's also true with the women. So you can take female slaves as well, and they are slaves all their lives unless you free them. You see what I'm saying?
But this is how he like. I'm just referring to what Omar Suleiman said. I don't think there's an instance where you could. Well, I don't know of an instance myself where basically it wasn't like the slavery was like used as a tool for the benefit of the. Well, I would say yes, it was a benefit for the Muslim people because they were using them for obviously for labor and stuff, but it wasn't 100% just for labor. It wasn't just like we're gonna take these human beings and just like work them to death. It wasn't like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they bought and sold them, so they were property. So they could be rich.
Yeah, they bought and sold them. I mean, in the case of the men, so of course, unless they kill them, which is an option.
So basically, you heard the hadith where basically I think it was Umar ibn al-Khattab, where he was going to another nation and he was on like the horse story where basically they were going with one horse and his slave there's only one person that can be on the horse at a time. You heard this story?
Yes.
No. Did you hear it or like?
What is the point? What is the point?
Okay, the point is when they reached this city, the people couldn't tell between who the slave was and who the master was.
So slavery is okay if you can't tell the difference?
No, the point isn't that slavery is okay. That's not what I'm trying to say. The point is that after a war, it's just a system that it was used in order to reintegrate people back into society. Now today,
Yeah, but look, you're using an anecdote of like one good case, but you're not mentioning all the good cases of people who lived as slaves all their lives and were sold. And you're not talking about all the women that were taken as female slaves and the masters had sex with them, whether they wanted it or not, and all the troubles. Like you're making
so
these kind of.
basically you're saying that, I'm just taking one incident to, cover up all the other bad that happened. All right, so in that case, I would say, okay, we're going off topic. All right, I'm going to go back.
Let's ask you one very straight question. Do you think that slavery is warranted and an okay thing?
Today's okay. So that for today, you're talking about regarding today, as
Yes.
of this time. No, for not right
Okay.
now. No.
Do you think it's okay to rape female captives?
You would have to define rape and redefine consent. And if consent isn't given, then I would.
No, I don't think I have to. Female captives, if you go through a woman and you forcibly enter her having sex, what is that?
Well, like I said, if you define consent, whatever consent, your definition of consent is. If there was consent,
is if I say, yes, please rape me?
There is a funny anecdote, like the North Koreans were asked, do you have concentration camps? So they said, we don't call it concentration camps, so we don't have any.
Yeah, exactly. The question is, do you think that raping, in other words, forcefully, all right, forcefully, without consent, without anything, it is okay to have sex with a female captive?
All right, let me say exactly what you just said. If the condition is such where you force a woman that is a slave without consent, then yes, that would be completely not permissible, even with the slaves.
Thank you.
Of the property.
Thank you. And this is exactly my point. What you are showing is that you are better than your God. You are better than Muhammad, because Muhammad very clearly said, very much enjoy raping female captives, forcefully entering them and keeping your penis inside them until you ejaculate is fine. That is what Muhammad said in multiple hadiths, which are all considered to be sahih. So you are better than Muhammad, you are better than your God, because in 424 it also says that it's fine to go and rape females even if they're married, and you just said you do not think that this is fine. Good. So that's excellent.
Word for word. So everything you just said, word for word, I would find these. I would find citations for these.
Yes.
Word for word, they used the word rape. The Prophet literally agreed upon raping women.
No, you will not find the word rape.
So there was, okay, explain to me what I would find.
Do you want me to read it to you?
If I'm not wasting anyone's time.
Yeah, go for it. Stop, find it there and do that. And I think just as a general point, while Stops is bringing that up, see, this is the thing that we have, Glass, is like, you seem to be quite a nice guy from what I can tell, and as we're having the conversation here, and obviously you're referring to scholars, which is one thing we talked about, and obviously Stops is asking, what do you think as a person? Because if we have to appeal to scholars in order to understand this book, then that's a problem for me. If I'm a reasonably intelligent, I'm by no means an intellectual giant or anything like that, but I can read and I can think and so forth, and if I can't make sense of this myself and I have to go and ask somebody else, what do you think? I'm getting their subjective opinion anyway. And this is part of the problem. If the book is not clear that I can't make these decisions or understand this clearly for myself, then that's problematic. And I think much of the problem with Islam would just go away if yourself and every Muslim on the planet just acknowledged that the Quran was, let's assume, dictated or brought forth for people of the 7th century, and it does not apply today. If you said that, 90% of the questions and the critiques of Islam we would have would disappear overnight.
So without the hadith, only the Quran you're talking about?
I'm talking about everything. If it was just said that, hey, this was for just to help people get a little better, then presumably they were even more barbaric prior to that, and this allowed them to get a little bit better and was for the people of the time, so they could understand and they could take in the next step in morality, let's call it, that would be that you could have an argument for that, and then we wouldn't be having so much of a discussion.
Since
But the fact that you and every Muslim claims that the book and the hadiths and everything is in its entirety meant for people for all time and all places, in other words, today and for the future, that's highly problematic. And you seem to admit that yourself. And when Stops and Abu bring these points up to you, you do kind of admit it. But now you have to go to scholars to try and find a way to justify that it's okay somehow in the book. And this is problematic. And we see this all the time. By the way, you're not the only person. This happens with virtually every Muslim.
Yeah.
They've all got their own way of trying to make it okay. Instead of saying, or you go the other route, you go the Majid Nawaz route, and you go, you know what, this is all wrong. We need to reinterpret this or drop this completely. But that becomes problematic as well. So whichever route you take, it's problematic unless you said it was only for the 7th century. But then, of course, I would ask you, well, what use is it of today? And then you'd still have a problem. So whichever way we look at this is problematic. But Stops, you carry on.
Okay, do you speak Arabic?
A little bit, yeah. No, well, I would
Okay, do you know
understand
what
a fair
asl
bit
is?
of it.
Do you know asl?
Say that again.
Do you know the word asl?
I think you're saying adl. It's like law, something to do with No. Okay. Could you put it in a sentence? Like, what are the words?
It's what is called coitus interruptus. It means pulling out your penis before you ejaculate.
No, I don't. Absolutely.
Okay.
Could you say the
This is
hadith?
what is used. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read you one hadith, which is from Sahih Bukhari, and it's from book 34, and it's number 432. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. While he was sitting with Allah's apostle, he said, "Oh, Allah's apostle, we get female captives as our share of booty, and we are interested in their prices. What is your opinion about this coitus interruptus, pulling out the penis before ejaculation?" And the Prophet said, "Do you really do that? It is better for you not to do it, because no soul that which Allah has destined to exist, but will surely come into existence." This is a Sahih hadith, which says, and this is me now paraphrasing, where Muhammad says, "Go and rape the female captives, enjoy it to your full extent, go and have your orgasm, enjoy your orgasm, you don't need to pull out, because God is looking after you, whether or not it's going to make this female pregnant and reduce the price on the slave market when you're going to sell her on the slave market." Now, how many of these do you want? I mean, I can go now for half an hour.
I know, okay.
There's many of these.
Yeah, okay. So in this, every hadith that you're going to pick up, there's no, well, this is more of a, isn't this kind of vague? Because
no, it's
how do you know,
this is
how do you know that there
clear.
wasn't consent?
No, it's
how do you know
clear.
there wasn't any consent?
Oh, you mean a woman will go and say, "Well, you've just killed my brother, you've killed my father, you've killed my everything, you've killed my husband, you've killed my brother, you've killed everybody in my tribe. I will open my legs, please go and have sex with me." I don't think so.
Well, the best case scenario is that.
It doesn't say so. You see, this is the problem. You are now lowering your standards incredibly, because it doesn't say so unless she objects. It doesn't say so. It doesn't say if she agrees. It says we get female captives and we are interested in their prices, selling them. What is your opinion about pulling out? It doesn't say anything about if we are asking them to have sex and they agree. It doesn't say anything about that. The women are not asked. They are being raped. That's what it says. And another one.
It's not even that they're asked.
Arab as captive, we are long separated from our wives, and it was pressing us hard, and we wanted to practice, blah, blah, blah. So there's, in the other ones, it gets even more explicit. I took a harmless one because it gets more explicit as we go along.
Yeah, I've heard these a long time ago. All right, so the answer that I've heard, like, what I would say personally, I'm pretty sure you want to hear what I believe personally, correct? Not what the scholars say.
No. I asked you before, do you think that this practice is something that should be practiced today in today's world, today's environment, in today's Europe?
Oh, of course not, never.
Okay, so you disagree with Muhammad. That's my point. Thank you very much. And
No.
you're better than Muhammad and better than your God. And that's all I said.
my point is, at that time, that was even if you those like the captive situations or whatnot, all of those cases all happened with consent. The thing is, over here, you just said that no, it's probably not consent, because who would agree to something like this? But
where do you get this from? Where do you get this consent from?
Because it's pretty much logic. If a person isn't, if you're not allowed to, hit your slave, then why would you be allowed to, rape them? It just doesn't make sense.
Where does it say you're not allowed to hit your slave?
I don't have the source right now. But there are sources. There are sources where you are not allowed to hit a slave, and if you do hit a slave, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm pretty sure. Okay, let me just stick to the first part. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to hit a slave without a reason. And if you do hit a slave,
reason, so you are allowed to hit them.
But yeah, if there's a proper reason, then of course.
Okay, so you're allowed to hit your slave. You're allowed to keep a slave in the first place. What is a slave? Don't tell me this is just somebody who applied to the sign in the window, slave apply within.
Like I said, the treatment that the slaves of that time had were not the type of slaves that we had in America.
A slave today.
No, of course not. Today, there is no circumstance under which a slave would be even necessary. We wouldn't have, even if we had a war, we wouldn't require to sell them.
So you think that slavery today, slavery being going to another village in a different country, dragging people out of their tribe, dragging people out of their village, burning down the village, killing the people, taking a couple of people, dragging them 1,000 kilometers and selling them on the slave market. This is what I define as slavery. So you say this slavery,
no, that's a completely wrong.
Has no place in today's Europe of the 21st century. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course that has no place.
If a book were to propagate that, would that book have any place today in Europe of the 21st century?
So you're saying it has that in the book where the sole objective was to get slaves?
I am asking if a book that would propagate this, would it have a place in today's 21st century?
That would be like a human slavery 101 book.
Okay.
So,
seems to me that we've outgrown that then. I mean, by your own sort of admission there, Glass, we've kind of outgrown the quote morality from
I was going to,
by the way, but I'm just hoping that you would accept that and move on. So why are you still a Muslim?
No. I don't. But here's the thing. I was going to add on to what I said before. The thing is that a lot of the scholars of the past, not even of the past, they say that there are certain things that happened due to certain circumstantial reasons.
We're back to scholars.
When those circumstances change, you are allowed to do ijtihad and change how the rules and regulations are made. Just like after the Prophet, I forgot which Khalifa it was, there was a time where there was a lot of famine and there was a lot of poor people, and cutting hands off wasn't considered to be like it was what do you call it? He didn't like that specific.
That was Umar ibn al-Khattab that made this ijtihad. But first, Umar ibn al-Khattab was he was a Sahabi, so his word is an authority in itself, because the Prophet said, "You should follow me and the generation after me and the generation of the anyway, we're the best generation. Anyway, you should follow my who is the group, like there will be 77 sects or 70 sects will go to hellfire, all but one. Okay, who are that sect? Those who follow me and my Sahaba."
Yeah, so he was a Sahaba.
But he didn't change the law completely.
He said temporarily.
Yeah, that was only because there were
due to circumstantial reasons.
There are many. There's so many like nusus. I don't know this in English. There's a nas. How do you say nas in English?
Exceptions or what?
No, it's not an exception. Textual evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah that says you're not allowed to change anything. أفتؤمنون ببعض الكتاب وتكفرون ببعض? Do you believe in some of the book and deny some of the book. So like وَكُلُّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ, like every invention
Innovation
is
is the bid'ah.
yeah. So like
وَكُلُّ ضَلَالَةٍ فِي النَّارِ.
slavery, we made a show about this also. Slavery is nothing you can just because of the circumstances remove completely. Yes, you can say that like there is no war right now and therefore we can't take any slaves in a legal way. But once you have an Islamic state and they make warfare on kuffar, of course they can take slaves.
Even in that circumstance, I don't think like I was just saying, there are certain circumstances where a person can do ijtihad and change the main, not necessarily the main text, but I would say a lot of the fundamental concepts that we believe in sometimes do, like cutting the hands off. That's a had, right? That's
Yes.
one of, yeah. So had, I mean, like that's a pretty core part of the religion. And if you have Islamic State, then you're supposed to have that within that state. So that even can change. So I would say that a lot of the scholars of today, they are doing that ijtihad. And they say that if an imam today were to come out and there were to be a real Islamic State, not this ISIS crap, if there were a real Islamic State, which there most likely never will be, and it's impossible because, you know, majority of the Muslim countries are not really, you know, making their rules and regulations based on Islam, just doing it.
Well,
that's a whole different conversation.
Saudi Arabia make most of its rule. I mean, that's the closest you can get. I don't think that's quite correct, because if you look at the earliest Islamic states like the Umayyads and the Abbasids,
even them didn't have a lot of the core Islamic had rules and whatnot in place.
Yeah,
or they practiced, they had it, but it was more like a
God says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. The one who doesn't rule with what Allah sent down, so they are the infidels. So the problem with not having an Islamic state is because the rulers are corrupt and they are at least making the small kufr.
If you have a Khalifa, he is allowed to change it, though.
Not only Khalifa, if a ruler in an Islamic country is not ruling by Islamic law, then if he is at least committing kufr al-asghar, he's at least committing the small kufr. And if he do it like with his i'tiqad, his belief that he believed that you should not rule with God's law, then he is a kafir. So you have to rule with God's law, and removing slavery and thinking that slavery should be removed could very well be kufr.
I would disagree with that. So there are a few scholars right now. I would say I'm not sure if there's any of the in the Indo-Pakistan area right now, but I'm pretty sure there are. But you know, they're not that popular, as in like they don't have much media appearances. I don't know why I can't pronounce that right now. So one of them is Mufti Abu Layl, or I don't know how to pronounce his name. Are you familiar with this person?
I have heard.
He's a person in United Kingdom.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Is that the one who goes on Facebook?
Yes, he has a live thing every single thing. Yeah. I was gonna refer to that, Mohammad. I don't know what your last name is. I was gonna refer to that on the last show that we had, and he was talking about how a lot of the rules and regulations we have about, I think it was the females, something to do with relationships and whatnot. And he was talking about even Mufti Maik, and I talked about Mufti Maik the first time they came on the show, and somebody was saying that these are like some of the ponytail Islamic scholars. I wouldn't like completely disagree with that, in the sense that, you know, that's the way a lot of the Muslim people are receiving them, because they're trying to play both sides, as in like they're like Salafi, but then they're not Salafi, but then they're like, you know, not extremists, but then they say that the Quran is true. So the, you know, people that are non-Muslim, they're like, oh, so that means you support, you know, stoning and all that stuff. But these same people, they are doing ijtihad. They are saying that these things, if per se, let's say 2017 today, there's a new imam. None of the, you know, I'm like, for example, this guy from the Facebook guy, Mufti Abu Laid, whatever his name is, he said many times in his live videos, the Facebook live videos, that the stoning women to death, cutting hands off, forget slavery, forget it. Nothing like slavery is not even anywhere close to being something that's required within this day and age. But yes, my point is a lot of this would be changed based on ijtihad, and coming to what you said, that, you know, all of doing this type of ijtihad would be contradicting like the fundamental, you know, ayats of the Quran, correct?
I would say that is like, if he is saying things about cutting off the hand of the thief and so on, that is, I think, is bordering on kufr. Because okay, you can make ijtihad about like new things that didn't exist back then, like iPhones and so on. Then you can, but things like this, if he says that you should not apply God's rule,
Funny question.
I think he is may commit kufr by saying that.
I have an interesting question. So would you say, based on what you just said in the last few minutes, would you say that the type of ijtihad that, I forgot which Khalifa did the temporarily, you know, stopping the cutting hands off, I think it was Umar radhiyallahu anhu. What do you think that would be the type of ijtihad that kind of like puts him in a place where he's doing kufr, based on what you just said?
If he thinks that something from that is obviously from the Sharia, like cutting off the hand of the thief,
that's from
if he
Sharia.
thinks that it's better to rule another, that it's not just that it really is better, then yes, he's committing kufr.
Okay, so in that sense, you're saying that basically the corruption starts from literally like the first 4 khalifas. Is that really what you're saying? Because in that sense, because it's well documented that he did do that. He did stop the hand cutting during the famine time.
Yeah, but he didn't think that was only because there was a very special situation. He didn't think in his heart that it's always better to replace God's law.
Oh, so basically completely abrogating it. Completely abrogate it. So a lot of the scholars of today, they don't. What you're saying is basically the difference between the prophets, the Sahabi, and right now the scholars of today would be that the scholars of today are kind of saying like that we'll have to be done with it forever, and that time it was temporarily, and then they would be back to it.
No. If this guy would say, if this Pakistani guy or any sheikh would say, okay, look, Umar ibn al-Khattab, in this very special situation when there was a famine, then he didn't use this had in this particular situation. But when the famine was over, then he started to do it again. So we can do the same if we have a famine. But we can't just say, like, okay, there's no famine, people are healthy, people have food, people are not dying in the streets.
Yes. So it's basically circumstantial. So then everything goes back to the same thing.
But we have the internet today, so then we can change it. No. That won't work.
Yeah, okay. So the answer to that, what I would say is that a lot of this, so a lot of the rules and regulations that were made from the core religion were more of making, I'm saying not this from basing off of other scholars. I think the religion is based, it's kind of like a structure that was designed, like the hands cutting off. And then we talked about this last time. I think Stopspamming said he didn't agree with it doesn't work as a deterrent to, you know, stopping from people from killing people. Like if you kill, like cutting hands off does not work as a deterrent to stop people from stealing. Is Stopspamming here? Oh no, he said he's back. He's not here.
No, I'm here.
Oh, so do you remember this when you had this the first time I came, and I said it wasn't me. I think you were talking to someone else, and you were saying how it was the 2 guys. Remember the 2 guys that were on one account? So you were having a little conversation with them, and basically the conversation was such that they were saying that the going to jail and doesn't, like cutting your hands off doesn't work as a deterrent to prevent people from going to jail, from doing crimes. So like, you hear what I'm saying? So my point is that a lot of the rules that we have in the religion, like cutting the hands off, stoning people to death and whatnot, all of these different things, it's more of like a strategy, I would say, in either to prevent, to govern a specific type of society.
You
So
know,
what
it's kind of
happened-
funny. Can I say a funny thing about this? Because I was just listening to Scott Adams, who is he's the guy who's making these cartoons. What is it called? Dilbert cartoons. So he was arguing about with some Republicans probably about gun laws. So he makes this argument that, or the Republican says that like having gun laws don't stop criminals from getting guns because they will get guns anyways, which is kind of true. But you don't have laws on a condition that no one will break them. You have laws because you make it more difficult to commit certain things. And I think it's similar here. Even in Islam, there's like the Quran or the Sunnah or the Athar doesn't say that cutting off the hand of the thief will prevent everybody from not stealing or prevent everybody from stealing. But it's this is the law of God, and you have to rule with the law of God because it's God's commandment.
So you're saying basically the religion isn't doing it consciously, knowing that it's going to act as a deterrent.
It acts as a deterrent, but not always. You see what I'm saying? There's no law that we say, okay, we only going to have a law against money laundering, for example, only if no one does it. That's not the point of the law. The law is there to make it harder, or make it to deter more people and make it harder to make money laundering.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a fair. But so you're referring. So how does this? Like? Can you explain what you? How does it have to do with like Islam? I don't understand. Like how?
Like if you're making that as an excuse to remove certain hudud from Islam or from the ruling, that is not a valid argument, not even in Islam.
Because then more people will. Because there's no law.
Because even during the time of the Prophet and during the time of the Khulafa Rashidun and during the time of the Tabi'in and everything, people still committed these crimes, and these punishments were executed.
Yeah, but my point is, you get the point that I'm trying to make, right? I'm just trying to say that this is kind of like a society. You have a society, and you want to govern it. You want to have like the least amount of corruption and whatnot. So I think a lot of these, the cutting the hands off and all these different laws and rules and regulations was kind of like to steer the society at a specific type of direction. I want to say positive direction because that sounds like everyone else is doing the negative. I know that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that it's not like, for example, in America, they don't regulate certain things. So I'm not going to say that now America's steering their own generation to the wrong direction. My point is, the whole Islamic concept of rules and regulations are more to have a kind of Sufism, right? Like everyone's going to be like a specific type of have a certain type of adab and akhlaq, and it's going to be a different type. So they want. I think that's what the rules and regulations are kind of for, to steer the people in the right direction. Yeah,
but still, that is not an excuse to. This is what Saracen used to come on the show, where he's like, but it's the maqasid sharia. So like it's the maqasid.
No, the whole maqasid sharia. Yeah, that's just movement talk. I think, my personal opinion, I think I just put his name up, Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki. Oh, he's a Maliki person. I don't know if he just put Maliki or is he really Maliki? But yeah, that's
from Pakistan. Is probably Hanafi.
Yeah, but why he put Maliki? It's probably just part of his name. So yeah, this person, I'm pretty sure like a lot of the scholars today, like I don't think even the other person that I talked about, his name is Mink, Mufti Abdullah Mink, something like that. Abu Mink or Abdullah Mink. I'm pretty sure he would say the same thing. The maqasid al-sharia, and then like, you know, implementing the sharia, we have to go back to sharia. You know, the corruption of this world is because of there's no sharia. This is all just, I think, movement talk, and I don't think they actually understand the meaning of like what the sharia even was like back then. Because the type of sharia they're asking for, look, the sharia came in the Prophet's time after like how many years? Over the course of how many years did the sharia come?
Yeah,
like
but
tomorrow,
once
one
they're
day.
there, they are there.
Okay, I want to jump in here quickly because there's a question from the chat. Somebody's asking specifically to you, Glass. How is mutilating a thief's hand going to allow them to rehabilitate and get a job? So if their hand is chopped off, presumably that was to show or to stop them from stealing again. But how is that going to help them not steal again or allow them to rehabilitate and get a job?
Oh, that's a good question. All right, so the circumstance. Okay, this is a very. All right, I'll just finish it in like a minute. All right, the objective of cutting a person's hand off is partially to educate the society in order to not to do it. So it's kind of like it's like a public thing. I think one of the persons in the last live show was talking about this, how they went back to Islamic country and they witnessed a killing of someone for, I think he was an apostate. So some person was being killed because of being an apostate, and they would take everyone from like the streets and be like, you have to see it and whatnot, and he couldn't eat or something like that. I don't know if you guys remember this. Someone was saying this on this live show.
You know, I have lived in Saudi Arabia, so I have
Is
had
that
my fair share.
Yeah, you've definitely seen it.
Okay, but is that a good thing to chop off a hand?
Yeah, so the objective is to like educate the society, right? So the circumstance under which a person's hand can be cut off it's not like, oh, he got caught stealing, that's it, cut his hands off. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. If the circumstance is such that the person cannot work afterwards, I'm pretty sure that you're not allowed to cut his hands off.
Okay, Glass, let me ask you the question a bit easier. Hang on a moment, Abba. Is there any circumstance in which stealing something warrants cutting your hand off? Can you name me any circumstance that I would agree with that is morally good to chop somebody's hand off for stealing something?
Oh, so asking me personally, right?
Anything. Yeah, give me a scenario, because you're saying that there's certain caveats. Give me one scenario where it is a morally righteous act to chop somebody's hands off.
Me personally, I think that if the person is known and he makes a business out of stealing stuff from people, like his livelihood is literal stealing, that's it.
Then it would be justified in chopping his hands off.
And even then, I can't remember that. I've read this. I can't remember what.
Glass, if I may just say so.
Don't look at scholars. Look at yourself.
Glass, if I may just say so, you seem like a nice guy, but you sound very confused and kind of all over the show, if I can put it, that way. And it's not meant in a derogatory term. Whenever I ask you, seem to, it's like your moral compass is
based on someone else.
But you're having a civil war in your head between what the Quran says and what you actually want to believe and what you do believe. And there's a war going on in your head. And when you open your mouth, we kind of get this kind of, like you aren't able to express it. It's like this, you are prevented because there's something going on in your head where there's like it's like a tug of war going on there, and you're unable to express it. And so you try to give me a scenario where somebody consistently steals, and you feel, and then you weren't sure that in fact even that would be warrant cutting somebody's hands off. So let me put it from my point of view and tell me where I'm wrong. Under no circumstances should a thief's hands ever be cut off. There are other punishments we could perform or give to him or inflict upon him that could rehabilitate him, that is not as harsh as that could give him the opportunity, as one of the commenters said, to actually rehabilitate and get a job and to stop doing that. And so in the civilized world, we no longer chop hands off or do anything like that. So give me a scenario where in fact it is warranted, or just say to me, no what, Rob, under no circumstances should hands ever be chopped off. Because that's really what I'm hearing, or I'm reading between the lines you want to say, but now you're trying to go back to the Quran. So there's a tug of war going on, and that's why people in the comments also saying you're trying to say a lot, but we're not really getting to anything specific yet. It's kind of, we're bouncing around. Tell me where I'm wrong.
All right, so okay, there's like this. It sounds like somebody's recording from the side of a, what do you call it? A highway. Whose mic is on? Is it only me?
I'm here. Yeah, it's me.
All right, sounds like there's a. Oh, there we go. It's gone now.
Okay, that
All
was Zoya. Yeah.
So okay, so the reason why I think I get why you said that. I think anyone that listens to people like Mufti Abu Layth in the new age, I probably shouldn't say new age, but I would say like a lot of scholars that are talking about these issues today, a lot of the stuff that we say, and I wouldn't say even we, I would say like there's such a, it's kind of like a conundrum. What you're trying to say is that I'm fighting with myself and with my belief system. I don't fight with the belief. I believe in what I believe in. That's what it is. I think a lot of the rules and regulations that were there at that time are not supposed to be applied today. Like I said, Mufti Abu Layth, he said this many times in his talk, that even my beliefs are aligned with his, that today, no, I don't think today there is a circumstance where we will necessarily have to cut a person's hand off. We needed to educate the society. I think there are much less harsher, much, things that we could do that are less harsh than that to needed to educate the society. But I'm not saying that we should I'm not saying that, okay, so we should change it right now, but it was bad then. I'm not abrogating.
Why was it good then and not today?
Well, I think the wisdom behind why their hands were cut off, and how many hands were cut off throughout the Muslim history.
That's not the point. What happens if God creates a kleptomaniac?
What's a kleptomaniac? I don't know.
Somebody who steals out of a brain disorder.
Like someone that steals.
Yeah, they can't help themselves. That's just what they do.
Well, in that case, he'll be addressed in a court based on his sickness, not based on the action of what he committed.
Ah, okay. So the people know he's a kleptomaniac and will not cut the hand off.
Oh, of course not. Hell no. No.
So they know these things. What happens if somebody loses their hand while he is working, just out of a mistake? Is he seen in the social life as somebody who has cut off their hands accidentally, or somebody who has been punished according to Sharia?
But that kind of, I don't see how that scenario is kind of funny. If a person cuts his hand off at work mistakenly, then are you saying that he will be considered, like people would assume that he stole, that's why his hands got cut off?
Yes.
So he would be, oh yeah. Well, that would be an issue that you would have in society, but I don't think that's necessarily.
This is a society that is working according to the Quran.
No, but like I said, even Mufti Abu, like this person,
No.
all of the scholars, they don't agree with this. I don't agree with it. No, of course I don't. Like I said, at that time, at the Prophet's time, I think that the reasons, the wisdom behind why those hands were cut off, I probably don't understand the wisdom behind it, so I can't judge the Prophet. But for today, I think the circumstances are such that we could do something differently that would, even that, I never governed a society, so I can't really tell. America is considered to be one of a really successful country. We have how many, people in our prison system? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's for other reasons. You could go there, but that's completely off the point. Nothing to do with this. Or was there ever a time? You could say, you could look back and go, do you know what, they did that in that time. But we could still look today and go, hey, that if we could teleport ourselves back into the 7th century, we could say to those people, don't do that. And we could give reasons. And if they were rational people, which there's a big question mark over that, but if they were, then they would hopefully get the point. So whether we say it's good now or good then, we can look back and say it wasn't good then and it's not good now. We can accept that they did it at that time. That's a different point, because that apparently was going on. But was it ever good? Was there ever a justification for chopping somebody's hands off for theft? I mean, you could probably provide me with some scenario where cutting somebody's hands off would be justified. I can't think of one, but I certainly don't think that there's a justification for theft, as in like stealing somebody's property. Would you chop a hand off? But it could be that somebody's hand is going to touch a nuclear weapon. Should we chop it off? You could come up with a hypothetical scenario, but could you come up with even a hypothetical from a theft point of view? No, I don't think you could. And so, this is what I'm saying to you. You did say in between a little bit of your waffle, if I just politely say that, you did kind of say, well, that you don't think that there is in fact a justification for hands being chopped off. But then when Stops asks
as of today, no.
Oh, but even back then, is there a justification for chopping somebody's hands off for theft back then?
Like I said, I don't understand the wisdom behind why the Prophet would, authenticate a type of, allow this type of thing, like actually order someone to cut someone else's head off.
So why are you a Muslim?
No. I don't know the reasoning behind it. I wasn't there. I would have to go to the 7th century, understand his reasoning behind why he did it. I can't judge someone from the 7th century with understanding the society from today.
Why can't you judge it? Why not? We do that all the time. That's how we've improved our society, is by judging what happened in the past and coming to conclusions that it was immoral or wrong. And that's what we've done. And that's how we've got to the state we are. And by the way, we're not perfect at the moment. And I'm sure in 100 years, people will look back and think that there was things that we did, like, for example, not allowing in the UK, as an example, not allowing assisted suicide. I think that's wrong.
What about Islam fascinates you the most?
It's called euthanasia, right?
That you think is about Islam. What is the best thing about Islam?
Okay, we're going to another topic.
No, this is exactly what Rob was just saying. I'm just narrowing it down a little bit more. What is the best thing about Islam?
Or just put another way, why are you a Muslim still? What is it that you feel is convinced that the rest of us are missing?
I feel there is a God, and Islam provides it.
So does Christianity and various other religions. What's special about Islam?
I think the validity of Islam is much higher than majority of the other religions. I think, no, Christianity not necessarily is wrong, though, because Christianity and Judaism is the same thing as Islam.
Well, Muslims don't believe that otherwise. But what's convincing for you? What's the number one thing? If you were speaking to me and you go, Rob, do you know what? I'm a Muslim, and here's the number one reason. I think if you, Rob, understood and accept this reason, you would be Muslim too. What is that?
Okay, back to it before I, confuse some of the Muslims here. All right, so when I said that Christianity and Judaism is also the same thing as Islam because they're the Abrahamic religions, so those are also valid religions. So I think the credibility of Islam right now is much higher because a lot of the sources that we have today are much more stable in comparison to the type of sources that we have when it comes to Judaism, or what do you call it?
Let's assume we granted you that the sources were. How do we know the sources are true?
It's as simple as looking at the sources.
Okay, but
if you look at the sources, there's a chain of narration.
That's but so what? What does that mean? So let's assume that I granted you all of that. I was extremely charitable, and actually everything that people wrote down was in fact what they wrote down. How do we know what they wrote down is in fact true in reality? Not true that they wrote it down. I'm granting you that it's true what they wrote down. How do we know that it's true in reality? That a God exists, that is your particular God. How do we know that's the case? Because people writing it down is obviously not the justification for why your particular God is in fact true. So why should I'm listening to you? You're speaking to me now, or to Stops, or to Abu, or in fact to anybody who's listening. What is it about Islam that makes you convinced that that's true, and why should I believe it?
Yeah, I was going to answer that part of the question. Like that's what you said right before. So what should I? You're asking basically what I could say to convince you. What are my main points you needed to convince you guys?
What's the most convincing thing for you that you could share with us? That you go, hey, this is the reason I'm a Muslim. This is extremely convincing, and here's the reasons why. And then we can see whether that makes sense to us. Because you've just said it's the sources of the chain, and obviously that's not the most important reason, because all of that I could grant you, but that doesn't mean that it's true. Or how do you establish that's true? Now, if you could establish that's true, and that in fact we granted you that everything that they wrote down was in fact exactly what they wrote down, now you've got something. How do you get there?
All right, okay. So let me answer it this way. Okay, first of all, let me say that earlier I was talking about how there are certain things that, when it comes to moral philosophy, there's this thing where I can't remember the specific word that they use, but it's basically circumstances that happen within my own life make me believe that certain things are true and certain things are false based on specific things that happen in my life. I would say this is kind of like the thing that, the Christians people say, that they saw Jesus or something like that. I wouldn't say that I saw Jesus or anything like that. My point is that certain things in my life happen particularly to only me. So I'm not saying that I believe, therefore you believe, or my belief system, the reasons why I believe will work for you, because it happened to only me. So it's specifically me that it makes me understand that my religion is correct. But for you, my reasoning wouldn't even matter to you because it didn't happen to me. It didn't happen to you. So
Glass, you're
for
waffling.
that thing,
Glass, you're waffling. Just please answer the question. You're talking absolute nonsense. Just answer the question. What is the most convincing thing for you?
to me, to believe for myself.
Yeah, Stops has got less patience than I have. I've obviously got a bit more patience. Stops has got a little less patience.
No, it's okay.
But
it's
everything,
okay.
Class, everything you said is like your subjective opinion. Do you think there's objective truth to be found in the world? Not your personal opinion.
Okay, I'm getting confused between subjective and objective. Can you explain?
Okay, so objective is something is true regardless of whether we believe it or not. So the Earth goes around the sun. That's true whether you're a flat earther or not. Now, flat earthers don't agree with that. So there's objective truths. Whether you were brought up in Saudi Arabia and you had a tough upbringing, or whether you were a multimillionaire and you had a silver spoon in your mouth, the Earth still goes around the sun. So are there truths to be known that are separate to your personal upbringing? Because you're trying to bring in your personal upbringing as a way that's convincing for you. I am never going to challenge you that it's convincing for you. What I am going to challenge you on, how is that convincing for me? Because I could say to you, you know what, I've been brought up as a Christian, I've left Christianity, I'm a non-believer, and I could give you the reasons why that's convincing and that should convince you. And all I'm giving you is my subjective opinion. So giving me your subjective opinion and how what happened in your life isn't useful, other than to say this is what happened for you, which I'm not going to deny that's what you believe. But if you believe that, if you care about truth, which I assume you do care what's true, and that there is a truth out there, then there must be a way to establish it. And your approach is not a way that we can establish objective truth. Or is it?
Yeah, okay. So I was going to say the answer to your question after saying the first part being that the reasons why I believe what I believe in are personal and stuff that you won't believe based on,
Okay, but
hearing.
that's irrelevant though. But that's irrelevant because I can say the same to you. So saying all of that doesn't help us in any way.
After that, I was going to say what I want. I was going to follow that up with something, and that's when I forgot his name. So my answer to your question would be this: that I think my religion specifically answers much more questions rather than not having anything to believe in. And I think the sciences that we have today are progressing at a rate so much faster than we're thinking. Like things are changing much faster. A lot of the stuff that we believe in, like you just said, subjective and objective, right? A lot of the stuff that are objective based on your upbringing, I don't think they're should be considered to be 100% correct, because you don't know whether it could be true. It could be true or false. You can find information that's new, but then on the other side, the subjective side, I think there's so many new things that you're finding in this world that there's no concrete thing to stick onto. So I think that the religion offers much more information and much more clarity rather than having nothing. Like,
Give
for
me an
example, I just said like example. For example, I would say the whole concept of morality when it comes to people that are non-believers, their understanding of morality is very, very confusing in comparison to a person that believes in religion.
You sure you want to go down that route? Are you sure you want to go down that route, Lars? The morality route?
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you a different question. Can you show me anything, just one thing in the Quran that is verifiably true?
Like scientifically?
No, I didn't say that. Anything that is verifiably true.
Oh, you asked this question before in the first
Yes,
time.
because it's a good question and nobody can answer it.
How do we know what is true?
Okay. By comparing it to reality.
But your sense of reality is subjective.
No, reality is reality, and there's only two ways to do it. It's either reality or logics. There's no other ways. Is there anything in the Quran that you can tell me that is verifiably true?
Well, it depends on which information. Like, are there like scientific data or what? Like,
so you can't. I mean, like, this is why I'm asking this question, because nobody can answer the question. I mean, it should be so easy, since
the whole concept of true and false doesn't even apply.
And you cannot even give me one thing that is verifiably true in the Quran.
No, but my point is the what do you call it?
Something for you to go, Glass, something for you to go away and think about. You're welcome to come on the show again. I'm not saying you should leave now, but what I am saying is that Stops has asked you a good question. So next time you come on the show, maybe if you can do one thing, is just get something that you feel is verifiably true from the Quran so that you can answer that question. Because it's not about trying to make you be wrong, but it is about trying to make you think. And if he's asked you a question which you don't yet have an answer to, can I suggest, or would it be okay with you to go away and think about that? Speak to whoever you want, get hold of your imams and sheikhs and whoever, and next time you want to come onto the show, come on and say, hey, Stops, that question you asked me, here's what I think is verifiably true, and we can have that conversation.
But you see where, but do you see where I'm coming from? What I'm trying to say is that a lot of the stuff that you guys are saying is like you're trying to come to an absolute conclusion. But a lot of these questions that you're asking, you can't even have an absolute conclusion. Like I said before, we're learning new things at such a rate that things are changing faster than we know. So,
okay, but the Glass, going down that route doesn't help you, and none of us are claiming absolute. Nobody claims absolute. But when we have
the concept of true and false is absolute, isn't it?
Okay, hang on. Let me. I've spoken to somebody about this recently, so let me make this distinction here and see if this works for you. There's something called the philosophical absolute, or I'm just going to use the word philosophical absolute, which is it needs to be 100% absolutely true, infallibly true. And then there's something that I would consider like a scientific fact, which means something. I'll give you the example. So something like the sun goes around the earth goes around the sun. That's a scientific fact. Now you could challenge me and go, do you know what, Rob? Are you 100% philosophically certain that's the case? And from a philosophical point of view, if I listen to all of that sort of stuff going down Descartes and Kant and all that sort of stuff, I'd have to say to you, no, do you know what? I could be a brain in a vat. But is that a reasonable position? Because if we go down that route, you are in exactly the same position as us. In fact, you're probably a little bit worse, but you're at least in the same position as us. So going down the absolute route is, if I may use the term, it's a red herring that I hear from Muslims, and it doesn't actually help your case. Because in order for you to go, hey,
we're on the same boat then, basically.
No, I would say similar. You're actually worse because you're making extravagantly metaphysical claims which we aren't making. But if you want to go down the route of, hey, you can't know anything absolutely. Hey, science makes it changes, so you guys can't assert scientific claims. I've just made one. The earth goes around the sun. I claim that as a scientific fact, and I will bet everything that I have my entire life, everything that the earth, I keep saying that, the earth goes around the sun. Now, you could, like I say, you could challenge that on a philosophical basis if you wanted to, but that's neither here nor there in reality. That's like a little bit of a waffle, and it's a sidestep to dealing with the real issues. Because if I were to say to you from a philosophical point of view, do you know what? No, I can't say that philosophically certain 100%. I could say 99.9%. My question to you is going to be, what can you give me that is philosophically absolute? And if you can't answer that question either, then why would you ever bring that question up?
Okay, the reason why I brought the question of why, like the whole philosophical absolute thing, is because when you ask a person a question of, do you think it's true or false? What is true or false about the religion, like the Quran? Show me something that's true or false. You're asking for an absolute answer.
We're asking you to give us an answer that comports with reality. So if the Quran says something that we can ascertain is true, then we have to grant that that's true. If it says something that in fact denies reality, then we can say that this is false. This is not difficult. And if you've got an entire book here, you can just find one, and then you've answered Stop's question. That doesn't mean, by the way, that the entire Quran is correct because you've brought up one question or you've answered his question necessarily, because everything would need to be correct if this book comes from God. If I can find one mistake, then you're in trouble. And I think between Stop's eye and Abu and most other people, we can find a lot of, quote, mistakes, if you want to call it that. But I want us to have this discussion, because I hear it all the time from Muslims about this whole absolute thing. So I want us to finish off with this. So hopefully, I hope and trust you would never come back and say this again from this absolute point of view. Because how is this helpful?
No, the question came from, I think, Abu, right? That he wanted an answer of whether, like, show me something from the Quran that is either true or false. If you ask the question true or false, you're asking for an answer that is absolute. So that's where the whole absolute concept came from.
No, he didn't say absolute. You've interpreted it as absolute. And if you want to use the term absolutely, an absolute scientific fact, let's use that, or an absolute natural fact about the world, something that comports with reality.
So are you saying that something that is philosophically absolute and something that is scientifically absolute is the same? No, scientifically true is the same?
But I've just been at pains to say to you that no, they're not, if we have to go with that.
No, they're not. They're not the same. That's what I'm saying.
So why are you going the philosophical route? Just go the natural route.
Because he was asking for an absolute answer.
No. Can you repeat my question, please?
Okay, wasn't your question this, that, show me something from the Quran that is true or false? So if I said true.
No.
Okay, what was your question then?
My question was, can you show me something in the Quran that is verifiably true?
Okay, fine, verifiably true. So my answer could be either true or false, either yes or no. So that's like a binary answer. So if I say yes, that means absolutely yes.
No. Look, if you go to a court of law, you don't go and establish innocence. If somebody is guilty or not guilty does not establish the innocence. If
it's based on the verification.
If something contains an odd or even number of something, does not establish the other thing if you select one. This is what people simply do not understand, and I don't know why this is so difficult. I'm asking you if there's anything verifiably true. This does not mean that everything else is false. This does not mean that everything else is true. I'm just asking for one thing that is verifiably true in the Quran. That's it.
The system of verification is flawed, so therefore it doesn't matter whether you get an answer or not. If I say yes or no.
That's not it. I'm asking you for something that is verifiably true.
Okay, but stops. He's basically saying you can't ask that question. That question's invalid. That's what he's basically saying.
Okay.
Because yes.
Okay, if that's the case, Glass, how do we know anything is true or false? Can I just say to you that the yellow quantum whisperer has given me information about what's going to happen? He's brought the universe into existence, and we're all just here to live out our lives and then die. How are you going to establish whether that's true or false? Because you've just said that we can't verify it. So how do we establish anything is true or false?
That's an interesting point, but I think the difference in Islam is that we have sources, and unlike I forgot his name, Stopspamming. He doesn't believe that the person exists, but there is some sort of the Muslim.
How do we establish that that's verifiably true, though? The source itself isn't. The source itself is not the verification. That's the claim. So you now need something else to verify that claim.
So one way you could verify the validity of whether the prophet lived or not is through the the lineage, the prophet's lineage. He had kids, and those kids had kids, and today we have their kids too. I think one of his names is Mufti. He's actually a parliament member too. I forgot what his name is.
Okay, but let's not go with Mohammad, because Stops may be. I would grant you that Stops may be in the minority there, but he might have good reasons for not believing Mohammed exists. I'm accepting that Mohammed exists. We're talking about the Quran itself. Give us something that's verifiably true. Now you say verifiably true is not a valid question because we can't. The methodology for verification is flawed. So if that's the case, how can we establish anything to be true or false? Anything, whether it's your religion, science, anything in the world. How do we establish it according to your view?
Rob, it's much easier. Glass, do you believe that anything is true?
So give me a specific thing to...
I'm asking you, do you think that anything is true?
It depends on the specific aspect. What aspect?
Is there anything that you believe is true?
Do you doubt your own subjective experience, that you're having the subjective experience that you have, for example?
No, everything is true. Then, the world is true. The reality is true. Life.
How do you know that?
Because you're living it.
How do you know that?
I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking to you.
That.
You're replying to my answers, my
So
questions.
you see, this is the point. I can go on asking, how do you know that? How do you know that all the time? You have established for yourself some sort of criteria against which you are measuring truth. And this
Yes,
is reality.
okay, to a
So
certain
it's
extent, yes.
reality. So you have accepted for yourself that reality is true. And that is the number one thing that you need to do. And now if I go and say, okay, what is true about you? What is true about reality? And what is true about the Quran? Then you automatically have the sequence that you need.
Okay, that's what I was responding to, Rob. If you look at the validity of the prophet's lineage, then you get up to the prophet, then the prophets...
No. The prophet's lineage is just a claim. You can't do that. You can't verify any of that.
What?
You
I
cannot
can't...
verify the lineage of the prophet without knowing that the prophet existed.
I know, but that doesn't make any sense, though. Like, if so,
I
all
know it
these
doesn't
claims are
make
lying?
sense.
No, but so how does that even make sense? Because look,
It doesn't.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. So the people that are claiming that they are the descendants of the prophet are lying then?
Or mistaken?
It could be. It's hypothetically it's possible, but is that what you're saying?
Don't shift the burden of proof. You made the claim, you prove it.
What claim did I make?
That the prophet existed.
Okay, so the claim, I made the claim, right? So the proof, the burden of proof is mine. Okay, fine. So you are denying that the prophet's lineage doesn't exist.
I am not denying it. I'm saying there is no evidence for it.
Okay, since there are certain individuals that have the last name and have to a certain degree, there are historical evidences to prove that they are alive and their parents come from the prophet. So that's their lineage. I gave you the proof for his lineage.
Is there evidence?
What, a human being can't be evidence?
So if you have the name Potter, then Harry Potter existed?
No, not necessarily, but that's not the only thing. So, okay. So you're saying, so in that case, there is no one today that carries the name Potter, okay? But there are people that are carrying the name of the prophet. So in that case,
there are people called
making
Potter.
that argument.
There are people called Potter.
But they don't claim to be the lineage of Harry Potter.
Who cares? You just said because they have the last name Potter, that means Harry Potter existed.
No, that's not what I said. What I'm trying to say is... Okay, I'm mistaken then. The point I'm trying to make is there are people that claim that the prophets, they are from the prophet's lineage. Are you denying that they are? Are you denying the fact them saying that?
We're rejecting
that. Fine.
Can I?
Yeah, that's a claim from them. So are you rejecting their claim?
Yes.
Correct.
Can I say something about that? Like these claims that they are from the prophet's tribe, that is highly undoubtful. Remember?
Highly what? Can you say that properly?
Highly doubtful. So,
highly doubtful.
You remember we were talking about this?
So it's unlikely, in other words.
Very unlikely.
Okay.
Like we were talking about this geopolitical stuff and Sykes-Picot agreement. You remember the Hashemites? So they claim that they come from the Hashemi tribe, which is the larger tribe of the prophet. But like, is that really true? Also, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi claims to be from the lineage of Fatima, which is highly unlikely. So there are clear incentives to like. I think that the best evidence for Muhammad's existence is not for like that people today claim to come from him. Although they might do if he existed. I think
Okay, I think the point is though that we're rejecting that claim because it doesn't have any evidence to support it. If somebody and Abu's just given some additional reasons why potentially we don't even have to give those reasons. If somebody says they're a descendant of Prophet Muhammad, what's the first thing that we have to do? We have to ask them, how can you verify, to use Stops' word, how can you verify? I could say I'm a descendant of Muhammad. I don't know if I am. I might be. Who knows? How do we
Okay,
verify
so-
those claims?
Okay, that's okay.
Because your
For
claim is that the verification process for anything presumably is flawed, or maybe not. Tell me, are you claiming that the verification process for everything is flawed, or only for certain things?
For the verification, for example, this specific thing that we're talking about, the whole lineage of the Prophet, it's pretty much verified. I don't see how it's not verifiable. If you go, like, there's a guy named Arshad Madani. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, none of you guys probably heard of him. He is considered to be one of the descendants of the Prophet. So if I go up to him, he's actually a scholar. I don't know, he doesn't get out of India that much, but he is a scholar in India. He's well known throughout the world. If you go to him, he will say that he's from the Prophet's lineage, and he will show you the evidence for it. Okay, now we can reject that evidence. The evidence could be my mother's name is such and such, my father's name is such and such, and I mean, so are you saying that those evidence that the person could provide hypothetically would be lies? Or are you just making it up?
Yes.
I mean, you have to see the whole lineage and the evidence for the lineage. It's like you're making, it's called like research back. It's like here in Scandinavia, for example, it's kind of easy to make research back to, I think it's the 1500s, because then they changed to the Catholic Church, from Catholic to Protestant, and everything became very authoritarian, and they started to write down church books and so on. So it's possible to trace back to the 1500s, but older than 1500s is really hard because they didn't
keep records.
Keeps record of it. So if there are really, really good records, and the absolute best thing is if you have records in combination with DNA. Yeah, I understand, but I don't think that's the best evidence for Muhammad's existence.
So you're questioning the validity of these people? These people are all just lying then? I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is that this is something
not necessarily lying, but
No, but then he would, like Stopspamming was saying, then that the only possible way that it could be false, that, you know, the Prophet didn't exist, is that these people, like, if someone literally never existed, then you can't ever have a progeny, you can't have a lineage. So then it would mean that all these people that are claiming to be the family of the Prophet are all just blatantly lying.
No, they're not lying, but they might be.
They are.
Some of them are probably lying. I think Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, I think, is lying.
Oh, Abu Bakr. Oh, come on. Okay, so you're saying from the
but yeah. I'm not saying that. I have met people in Saudi Arabia who claim.
But hang on, Abu. You see, why are you differentiating between the one person and the other? How can you?
No. They might be wrong, but they might not be lying. They may really believe that they are from that tribe, but I doubt that they have records for every generation back to the Prophet. That I doubt.
All right, so basically what I have to say to that is, like I said in the first time I came onto this show with you guys, this is more of a, not like a, I'm gonna shit on you and, you know, we're gonna, you know, start, you know, disrespecting each other, being like, you know, very, I don't know. It's more of a productive conversation, and that's the only way.
Absolutely.
I think. You know,
yes, we're just exchanging opinions. Absolutely.
But a point that I want to make is that because we're being, you know, respectful to each other, that's the only reason why we're having this conversation. Having that said, I would say a lot of the stuff that you just said today, if I take this back to the scholars, they'll be like, what? Really? Are you really saying that all these people, this Arshad Madani guy, he's a big deal. He's a huge deal in India. So you're basically denying.
Yeah, but they might say what really, but they say what really about a lot of things. When we say that, like
No, what point I'm trying to make right now is that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, a lot of people outside of this channel that are not listening to this, there's only like, what, 30 people listening to this right now? 46 people listening. A lot of people that are from Saudi Arabia will like literally laugh at us, being like, really? Are you literally denying the lineage of, there's hundreds of people within the lineage of the Prophet? You're saying that
they might
bring the
laugh,
evidence,
but if they can bring evidence,
show it. Let him prove where he comes from. If he wants to, he can come and convince us. I am convincible. In other words,
exactly.
I am not a bigot. You can convince me of other things. I will change my mind if presented with evidence.
Exactly. Just because they're laughing doesn't mean that they're correct.
No, I get what you're saying. The point I'm trying to make is that they'll laugh at us like, really, you're actually looking for evidence for this? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but nobody cares about whether they're laughing or not. But
No, that's what I'm saying. My point is the type of questions you guys ask. Well, I said this in the first time I came on too. The stuff that you guys talk about and this type of questions you guys ask are completely not even remotely talked about within the, what would I say? Forget the scholars. I don't think even the Awam would
Even the
understand
Ummah,
half
we
of
know
what you said.
that.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it true. Like when we, like I, for example, don't think, if you're watching the show, like I don't believe that today's Mecca is the historical Mecca. And that is, of course, not discussed. And if you say that to a Muslim, they will just laugh because they're so completely out of their worldview. But still, when I look at the evidence, I don't think there's an evidence that Mecca even existed during like the early 7th century.
all right, I think let's, because we've been having a bit of a chat here, and there's been some comments in the comments section, and somebody did ask me to ask Glass something. There's a couple of hadiths here, Glass, that maybe you can give me your view on, that was brought in by somebody in the chat, and it is Abi Dawad, and it's, I guess it's book 40, chapter 20, the thief who steals repeatedly, because we talked about this. So here it says,
Yes, I said that too repeatedly.
yeah, a thief who was brought to the Prophet, he said, a thief was brought to the Prophet. He said, kill him. The people said, he has committed theft, messenger of Allah. Then he said, cut off his head. So his right hand was cut off. He was then brought a second time, and he said, kill him. And obviously this is somebody else, not Muhammad. I'm guessing he's saying kill him. The people said, he has committed theft, messenger. He, Muhammad, said, cut off his foot. So his left foot was cut off. He was brought a third time, and he said, kill him. The people said, he has committed theft, messenger of Allah. So he said, cut off his head. So his left.
I've heard this hadith before, so if you just say
you know which one it is?
Yeah, no, if you can continue, because the people that are listening probably don't know.
Yeah, so it said cut off his, so he's not his head, sorry, his hand. So his left hand was cut off. He was brought a fourth time, and he committed theft, and he said cut off his foot. So his right foot was cut off. He was brought a fifth time, and so we took him away and killed him, and then dragged him and cast him into a well and threw stones over him. So that's somebody from in the comments has put that. It's not from me personally, somebody in the comments. So what is your view on that? A, do you think it's true? B, do you think it's moral?
I think the circumstances under which this all happened, I don't know what the circumstances were, so I can't really judge something based on circumstances I don't know.
Okay, but he was a thief and he stole repeatedly. Do you need more information than that?
Like, let's say I govern a society, I wouldn't do it for my personal sake. I think there's other ways you can solve the problem.
Okay, but that's your personal subjective opinion, is it?
Yeah.
Because that's not obviously what's said there. So that's fine that you disagree with it, but now you have your personal subjective view on it. And there obviously the Prophet was saying chop his left hand, his right hand, his left and right leg, and then eventually kill him.
But I would also say that the time of the Prophet, I think the circumstances under which those specific acts were, done, like that process of cutting people's hands off, I think it did serve a specific objective, and it was for something that was beneficial to what they understood at that specific time that I can't, comment on, because I don't know what the circumstances were.
But you have commented on it. You said that, if it were you, you wouldn't do that.
If I were at that time, I would have probably done it differently, but I could only say that, but I'm not at that time. I don't know.
So are you better than the Prophet then?
Maybe if I were at the time of the Prophet, I would have ended up doing the same thing as the Prophet, because the circumstances, I would have understood the circumstances. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not better than the Prophet. What I'm trying to say is, at the time of the Prophet, the Prophet did certain things, and those things I don't understand. I probably don't understand the things surrounding it. I don't know the circumstances under which those things were done. I said this a few times already.
I know, and I'm wondering how you sleep peacefully at night, having that conflict going on for you. It's just, for me, it sounds mind-boggling. At first you say, Go on,
You
Evan.
have another
No,
derivative.
this is not only me. I think majority of the Muslims nowadays, no one's gonna say that. Oh, we're going to go kill people. No, it's not. Nobody. None of
No,
the
but-
scholars of today consider what's it called, cutting hands off and stuff like that to be. If Islam were to come back, it's not like tomorrow morning we're gonna start cutting people's hands off because they stole. That's not how even the Sharia works.
I have a question. But this is a little bit derivative, but do you like this thief? How
Yeah.
did he commit the third theft?
Say that again.
This thief in this hadith, how did he commit the third theft? The third act of theft.
Yeah, he didn't even have any hands.
I'm sure he could use his stumps to grab something and run.
Or his teeth or something.
Okay, there's one more. I just want to honor the person in the chat. So there's one more glass. This is Sanun al-Nasiri, the book of cutting the hand of the thief off. Chapter 14, cutting off the thief's foot after his hand. I'm not sure. I'm just reading to you what was sent to me. It was narrated from, and I can't pronounce these Arabic words, my apologies, Al-Hirith bin Hatib, that a thief was brought to the messenger of Allah, and he said, kill him. They said, "O messenger of Allah, he only stole something." That's in brackets. He only stole. He said, "Kill him." They said, "O messenger of Allah, he only stole." He said, "Cut off his hand." Then he stole again, and his foot was cut off. Then he stole at the time of Abu Bakr, until all his extremities had been cut off. Then he stole a fifth time, and Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "The messenger of Allah knew better about him when he said, 'Kill him.'" Then he handed him over to some young men of the Qurayshi to kill him, among who was Abdullah bin Aziz Zabur, I guess that is, who liked to be in a position of leadership. He said, "Put me in charge of them." So they put him in charge of them, and when he struck him, they would strike him. When he struck him, they would strike him until they killed him. There we go. So I have satisfied. So there again, it's the same sort of thing.
The first hadith you said, it was from Abu Dawud, right? I believe.
Yeah.
And the second one was from?
Now you're asking me. I'll bring it up again here. It's in the chat, by the way. It's in the private chat here. It is Sanun al-Nasiri, the book of cutting off the hand, hadith. Book 46, the book of cutting off the hand. This is from sunnah.com. It's in the private chat there. And it was posted.
No, I'm looking at the chat too, but yeah.
I'll just post it there anyway for people. Whoops, that's not the right one. But I think you've kind of answered the question. But I just wanted to. I said I would ask you those two hadiths, and I've written them out to you.
Okay, since we're talking about hadith, can I add something on that?
Sure.
All right, so I'm pretty sure we're worlds apart. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that you guys are saying, obviously, and you guys don't agree with probably a lot of the stuff that I'm saying also. But what I'm trying to, obviously, this is more like a dialogue. We're trying to have a conversation. But here's what I don't understand is that a lot of the scholars that are coming out nowadays, a lot of the scholars don't even say a lot of the hadith are credible, even from this, well-recognized source. What do you have to say to that?
No, I think that's just a bias. What they're trying to do, in my opinion, as I listen and notice, is they're trying to make Islam fit with the Western world, because there's been a collision which has left Islam bruised, to say the least, and now scholars, quote unquote, some scholars, are falling over themselves to try and get rid of certain hadiths, to try and make Islam palatable for the West, because we in the West, those of us who are looking at it, look at what is being said and offered and so forth, and we see this as barbaric, to say the least. And so these scholars are trying everything they can to make, no, it didn't really mean that. No, that hadith, that's not authentic. No, we don't find that. So all that's happening is a bias here. How can we make this palatable so that we can introduce it into the West where people won't reject it outright?
I think you're using the same kind of scholars as Saracen, don't you? If you know who he is.
I don't think he's here.
Uh,
Oh yeah, he's no. Okay, So what I think is that a lot of this is common. Everyone knows this. That a lot of the stuff that the scholars do have differences of opinions, and I did text this to Rob too. I've seen both sides. I've seen the scholars of this side. I've seen the scholars on the other side too.
Why do they have this, do you think? Why are there discrepancies?
Okay, I think the reason why there is a discrepancy is because no one ever comes to this side and sees this side, and I don't think they know their own history. A lot of history is not taught in Islamic schools. Okay.
What? But look, if you have like in Saracen's case, I think you're kind of using the same scholars. I don't know, but anyway, what he does, that he want to discredit huge parts of Sahih Bukhari. Like, even if you do that, you still have to have some kind of standard for how you authenticize an hadith. So even if you're using his kind of methods, you're still gonna end up with the kind of hadiths that we're talking about. So yes, you can say that, like, okay, but we discredit Sahih Bukhari, and then you hope that no one will shake up your kind of, like, for example, you say that, okay, only Malik's Muwatta, that's the most Sahih hadith collection. Okay, but even if you use Muwatta, that doesn't help you very much, because the same kind of hadith exist there too.
Okay, are you familiar with Shibir Ali? He's a PhD. I'm pretty sure he has a PhD.
He's a joke.
Okay, why would you say that? Could you explain?
Because he's a joke. He's an idiot.
Elaborate. Like, can you give me like a specific thing that he says that makes him an idiot?
Everything. There is nothing that he says that makes any sense. He is so proud of his PhD in nonsense that it's amazing. And every time I hear him talk, he still thinks that Maurice Bucaille was a brilliant scholar. He was a Nobel receiver of some sorts. He's a total fool.
But look, the important thing, like, you don't get away. If you say that this method of authenticizing hadith is false, that most Muslims use, then you have to come up with another method. Then you're going to say, okay, these asanid are true, and when you look at the hadith that come from those asanid, then you can just read those hadiths, and what you find then, if you have the time to make a little bit of research, is that there's not much of a difference.
Okay, but you see the point I'm trying to make, though, right? A lot of the scholars of, like, for
yeah,
example,
I understand what you say, but
I don't understand why you would say he's like completely stupid, but I think you would say the same thing about all other scholars too. And what about the person in the Arab country? I forgot his name. Abdullah bin Bayt. What about him?
Look, I don't know all these guys, but I'm not interested in the guys themselves. I'm interested in what their claims are, what their method of authenticizing hadith are, their methods are. So if you say that these asanid are false, then okay, what's your method, and what? Because, like, I think they're saying this because they want to, like, most people don't have the time and they don't have the knowledge to, like, sit and calculate, so to speak, what like, if they say, okay, this method is the correct one, then you have to go through all the hadiths in all the collections and, like, authenticize them one more time. And after spending like several years authenticizing everyone with this method, then you come up, dude, the same kind of hadith of cutting off the hand with a thief and all that exists in your method too. You see what I'm saying? I mean, one thing that Saracen, for example, said,
sorry about that,
that is very easy, is that he accepts mutawatir, for example. So then you can take the list of all mutawatir, and then you can read them, and it's pretty much the same story.
Look, can I just summarize this a bit, because this is getting on and on and on. Glass, can't you see that this is like really nonsensical. You believe in a book that you don't even understand. You believe stories that you cannot verify. You've got stories, you've got claims, you've got all sorts of things where none of them add up. It doesn't matter whether you use logics, whether you use anything that you use does not make sense. And yet you are still claiming that there is a good reason for you to believe what you believe. And this is something that I can't understand. Abu has just showed you, like in a very detailed manner, what it is that is wrong with your conception of what you look at if you see the hadiths. So what is it that is still keeping you there if everything that you see is wrong? Nothing adds up. Everything is full of contradictions and mistakes, and you still go and you say, yep, I've got a good reason to believe all this. What is it? I don't understand what we are doing here when every time you're making a claim, we're shooting it down. I don't understand what you still see in this.
What claim have I made and what claim have you shot down?
Every single one of them.
Okay, so I made a claim about the prophethood thing, and you basically denied that the whole prophethood thing, they don't exist.
So you can only deny what exists. You can only deny what is shown to exist. You have not shown this. I can't deny it. I'm just saying you have not provided the evidence to back up your claim.
It's as simple as searching it up online. If you go on, like, what am I gonna like do the same thing as you guys do? Like, just cite places like, what's it called? Forgot his name. That's the thing. I mean, like, if I just cite stuff that just doesn't look right, I mean, like, I don't think I have to. It requires me to, like, go cite the lineage of the prophet. I mean,
that's exactly what it does.
Anyone can do that.
It requires you to bring up the evidence if you are making a claim, and you have not done that.
So the family tree of Muhammad, so you're saying the one that they have on
Glass,
Wikipedia is not
listen,
a source.
you're going there again. We're going round in circles. You are doing the same thing over and over and over. It doesn't matter what topic. It doesn't matter what area we touch. You are immediately going off to the scholars and saying, yeah, but the scholars are saying this. These people are saying this. These people are saying this. You have not provided anything from yourself, from your own research, from what you have found and what you find to be true. Do you actually, do you worry what is true? No, you believe what others are telling you.
Okay, so basically, what are my beliefs that you're trying to say? What do I believe in to believe in myself, not what other people? All right, so this lineage, I'm posting it on the chat inside the live stream that we have. Not in the live stream, of the thing.
But the Glass is the lineage of somebody.
Tell me why that's not valid.
My lineage is from the Prophet. Is that going to keep you in Islam? Is that the most convincing thing in the whole world?
You claim lineage to Adam as well. I mean, this is just because you make up a tree like this doesn't mean that it's true, or is there any historical evidence for it?
What if I say my lineage is Jesus? Now what?
Kind of funny. A relative made some kind of research for this, so he claimed that I as well, in that case, come from the King Knut, who invaded England and was king of England for a while. So I'm very doubtful that's the case. But he at least made some kind of research that, like, he went through every generation. I think the generation after the 1500s are highly doubtful. But
let me ask you a question.
But I mean, you're just showing us a kind of a diagram. But just because you make up a diagram like this doesn't mean that it's true. You don't have any evidence for the specific parts of the diagram.
Okay, I think I don't know how much further we're going to get with the lineage of Muhammad. I think, as Stops and Abu have pointed out, you can create a wonderful tree, but you need evidence to support the tree. Why do we believe this? How do we know that this person followed that person, etc.? Which is, we could have an entire show on that on itself. I don't think you're going to bring us any evidence other than to point us to a link. But I did again want to ask, because we've got people watching, I wanted to ask you a question that's related to this from somebody in the chat. So I'm going to quote you from the chat. The person says, so even if people are related to Muhammad, how is that proof that Muhammad was indeed a prophet of God and not some cult-leading warlord?
Okay, that's a good question. My point is, like I said, that's under the circumstance that someone agrees that the prophet existed, right?
Yes, we can take it that the prophet existed, because otherwise we get stuck there forever. So there was somebody called Muhammad, right? What now? Related to that question.
He claimed that he received revelation from God, and the stuff that he has brought at that specific time is credible. I believe is credible.
Okay, but the question was, so even if the people were related to Muhammad, how is that proof that Muhammad was a prophet of God? Or was it
because he received revelation?
Okay, but he could receive a revelation, and these people could still be wrong about being related. So whether they're related is in no way got anything to do with whether Muhammad was a prophet, correct?
Could you say that again? Because if they're related, that shows you an anchor that the person existed. The reason why we're using the lineage is to prove that the person existed, because we have people like Arshad Madani today that claim that he's from the prophet. So the reason why that connects with the validity of whether the prophet was a real prophet and got revelation from God is because we have Arshad Madani. He claims he had the prophet is his grand whatever, however long grandfather, and that grandfather, after however many generations that has to be, claims that he received revelation. So I consider that revelation to be correct.
Okay, but there's two separate things that are being put together there. One is, did Muhammad exist and did he have offspring? The other is, was he a prophet of God? And so the question was, so even if people are related to Muhammad, in other words, they were his descendants, how is that proof that Muhammad was indeed a prophet of God and not some cult-leading warlord? Because those people that were descendants would be his descendants, whether he was a cult leader or a prophet. So are they in any way persuasive or evidence for him being the prophet of God?
So the objective of bringing the lineage is to prove that the person existed, not for.
Okay, we're accepting he existed.
Yes, and to understand whether he was a real prophet or not, he got the revelation. And if you read the revelation, come on, it's like the first ayat of the Quran, blah blah. Okay, so based on that, you can understand that he got revelation. And I mean, like a cult leader, I don't understand how does that?
Okay, let's just deal with the first part, which is you would accept that even if people claim to be related, that in no way validates that he was a prophet. You have to agree with that, surely.
Yes, of course. No, okay, of course not. That doesn't have anything to do with. That doesn't mean anything.
Okay, great. So that was kind of the answer to this person's question, that whether people are related to Muhammad, that in no way.
That doesn't validate whether the religion is true or not. That's not what I'm trying to use. No.
Correct. Okay, good. So the second part is then he claims to have had a revelation, which is the first.
Yes. Now,
why should any of the rest of us believe that that's true?
No. I'm not, like I said, I don't think you should or shouldn't believe anything. I think I said this before. I consider it to be valid, and I think it's credible. I think the revelation that the prophet has given down to his family and the people around his family, I guess, to all the way to today, it's credible. I think it's credible. I personally think it's credible.
Okay, that's fine. But
now other people may consider that to be not credible. But now give me your sources and let's have a conversation about that. So you get what I'm saying?
I must give you sources of what's not credible.
Come again?
You're asking me to give you my sources to show that it's not credible.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like if a person asks, like, this is the question from the person in the chat section, right?
You know, we've dealt with that now. You have said, which is fine. I'm asking you, why should we believe? And you saying to me, your basic response was, no, you don't need to believe this.
No, you don't have to. No.
Okay, but I want to believe what is true, don't you?
Yeah, of course. If you want.
So It's not a question of, oh, well, I'm picking and choosing because it makes me feel good or not. I want to know what's true. And I think the rest of us in the chat and Stops and Abu have said the same thing. We want to know what's true, whether it makes us feel good or not. Let me make it clear to you that if Islam is in fact true, I would have to accept it. It would be devastating for me. It would feel like I'm living in a celestial North dictate in North Korea, as Christopher Hitchens said. That it would be the worst thing in the world for me. I can't almost think of any belief that I would have to accept that I would hate more than that being true. But if it's true, I would have to believe it. And so the point is, how do we know
Chainsaw
that it is
Massacre.
true? It's not a case of, oh, Rob, you don't have to believe it. Yes, I do have to believe it if it's true. And you've accepted the same thing. You have to believe what's true. How do we establish whether it is true? Not whether I feel like I should believe it. That's not the point. I would have to believe it if I'm intellectually honest.
I
And
think
if I hated it, which I would have to believe it.
I think it's a compilation of many different things. One is a type of trust because of which I think it's true. I think I have met certain scholars and talked to many scholars that are connected to the religion well enough to know that they are being honest, and I trust their understanding and they consider it to be true. So that trust extends all the way to the Prophet, and that trust from the Prophet goes because the Prophet himself claims to be the Prophet, makes him to be proved to be that there's God because he claims that there is a God and blah blah blah. So I'm trusting. It's more of I don't think trust is the right word. I would say I think the level of information that was given to me through the books that I've read and the scholars that I have talked to gave me enough information and trust and understanding and needed to believe that whether what they are saying is true.
Okay, so you're believing it without evidence, though. So you're having faith.
Oh no. I don't think
No?
there's any evidence.
You don't think there's any evidence.
I don't think there's any evidence per se. No.
So you believe on faith.
Yes, of course I believe in faith, but there are other stuff that are much more like quantifiable, or should I say measurable, or
Like what?
But exactly. But I don't think it would apply to you. I think it applies to only me. Like I said this before, like having a chat with God. I'm just giving a fake example, but I'm saying, like, you know how the Christians say that they've met God and they have like, I have absolute belief, but you don't have to believe me because
we've talked about that, Glass, but we've talked about that in subjective.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but we've
Exactly.
talked about.
So I have subjective reasons for why I believe also.
Okay, I understand you have that. We've talked about that before.
Yes, correct.
Subjective reasons are not convincing for anybody else.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I was saying. I was
Okay.
trying to go around that.
Okay, but so bringing up subjective opinions isn't helpful in this discussion when I'm asking you, what reasons are there to believe that this is true? And you give me your subjective opinions. I could give you subjective opinions about why I think it's not true. Both of us are giving subjective opinions. We need something else to establish whether it's true. Would you agree?
Say that again. Say that last part again.
We need something other than our subjective opinions to establish what is true or likely true.
Okay, so just like the religion, okay, what is there to deny within the religion? Tell me.
You need to make the claims. You give me the claim, and I'll tell you what I reject.
All right, so there is a person named so and so. What's it called? Ashad Madani claims to be a family of the Prophet. So therefore, you should believe because he has, in fact, I believe he has a great, so on and so forth grandfather, that which is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that claimed that that God spoke to him. Therefore, and I believe, so therefore you believe. And no, that doesn't work.
No, that doesn't
believe
work.
that it's credible. Therefore, you should believe it's credible. No, that doesn't.
You're conflating a lot of things together. Maybe it's a bit late. I don't know. Somebody else will have a go. You're conflating many things together here. The fact that some guy claims to be the descendant of Prophet, I can grant him that he's the descendant, even if he doesn't have evidence. I'm going to say, okay, maybe you're the descendant. I don't care whether he's descendant or not. What I care about is whether what Muhammad said or taught or shared is true. I don't care who claims to be his descendant. That's irrelevant to me. What I want to know is what he said, his ideology, what he shared, true or not? If it's true, then I have to believe it, whether I want to or not. And I certainly don't want to believe it, but I would be forced to if I'm intellectually honest. How do we establish whether that's true?
Well, the book, you would have to say that the book is fake then. So do you say, obviously you will say that the Quran is made up then, right?
I reject the claims of the Quran. because they haven't met their burden of proof. And when we've been chatting to you for the last 2 hours, whenever we've asked you for something, and Stops asked you in the beginning, and I've asked you as well, give me the most compelling thing that makes you a Muslim. We haven't heard that. And we went off on a red herring about whether Muhammad.
It makes me feel good.
That's the most compelling reason you're a Muslim?
Well, I think it makes me feel good. It works with my, what's it called? My, not destiny. What do you call it? The type of life I would like to live. I think.
Okay, Glass. Let me go back to the question again. Do you care what's true?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so one of those two sentences you've just uttered now, they're in conflict. I don't know if you can notice that. If you're believing something because it makes you feel good, that can very well be in conflict with whether something is true or not. I can tell you that I live a better life not being a believer. It feels good for me not to believe, not to have a
celestial. But you can't. There isn't any information that was ever provided to me that's credible enough to prove to me that it's not true.
Okay, but you're believing on insufficient evidence. So your critical thinking faculties, which is what I've always maintained, is not operating efficiently. You are believing things without good reasons. You've told us that it's faith, that it makes you feel good. I'm saying to you, you're not thinking critically. And when I've spoken, and Abu and many others, when we speak to ex-Muslims, they all say, oh, I switched on my critical thinking faculties. I started to think more clearly. I started to be more critical, and I woke up from the matrix. So that's what you are not doing at the moment, by your own admission. I'm not even having to draw that out of you. You've said it yourself.
Believing that I am the reincarnation of Napoleon Bonaparte makes me feel good. And since I have not found any evidence that disprove the fact that I am the reincarnation of Napoleon Bonaparte, makes me convinced that I am.
No, I said this, you guys asked me this question like 3 times already, and I said this. There are certain things that happen throughout my life, and there are certain evidences, so you can say, like I've asked for proof, you could say, and I have received certain, I wouldn't say received, I would say certain things played out in certain ways within my lifetime that prove to me specifically that the religion is correct. So yes, because you keep asking the same question.
Glass.
Yeah, exactly.
The point we've been trying to make for 2 hours. It is not proof.
For me, it is.
And that is subjective. This is what we've been doing for 2 hours. You continuously say that for me it is true. I have no way of verifying it. I am concerned what is true, but I don't care what is true. What is it?
I think to be a little bit charitable, I think you're having this like common, you have had religious experiences, maybe you have prayed to God and then the thing that you prayed for happened or something like that, and then that made you spiritually convinced that it must be from God and so on. Is that correct?
I would say similar to that, but what I would say is this let's say, how would I explain this? The questions you guys are asking, it kind of doesn't make sense to me, because look, the reasons why I believe it won't work for you guys, we've been over this for the 5th time right now, and I've been repeating it to you guys too, that it's like 5th, 6th time. The point is, I'm not here to say that, oh, you know, I'm not trying to like exactly convince you guys to like become Muslim or whatnot. At this point, like I'll bring proofs probably later on, but at this moment, I'm still trying to understand what you guys believe and what you guys understand. Like things said, he doesn't.
No, this is the point. We do not believe
in anything.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You need to provide evidence to make us believe anything.
No. What I'm saying is that, look, you guys are making arguments that were never heard of. So you need to understand.
No. We are reacting to your arguments. I don't make any arguments. I react to what it is that you say. So you are saying, well, there's a God and he wrote the Quran, and there's Mohammed and he is.
And it works for me.
And this works for you. Brilliant. But you cannot convince me of any of those things. So if you are saying, well, I believe it, it works for me, but I'm going to shut up about it because it only works for me and I cannot provide any kind of evidence, that's cool. The problem is that you are coming here and you're saying, well, this is what it does, this is what it looks like, and this is what is true. And this is where we now go and say, whoa, 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 whoa. Why do you think it makes it true? And this is now the point where we sort of divert, and this is where we part company, because up until now, we've said, yes, we agree with you, yes, we agree with you, but now you're saying this is true. And that is where we're saying, no, because there is no evidence. And that is the whole point that we're trying to make. If you are trying to make a claim that this is true, then you actually need to provide evidence. If you say, I don't care, it works for me, and I don't care whether you believe it, then you don't need to provide evidence. But then you cannot make the claim that this is truth, that it is somehow comparable to reality. You understand the difference between a bubble, a fairy tale, and reality? That is the point. So if somebody comes and says, I just want to believe it, it makes me feel comfortable, it makes me feel good, I want to believe aliens had sex experiments with me, cool, I don't give a I'm not interested in that. But as soon as somebody says, oh, but it's true, that's when I start thinking, there's something wrong here.
Okay, so I needed to answer all of those questions. There's a lot of questions right there. All right, so I think I'm here more to...
one question, Glass. Let's be very clear. There's only one question here. What is true about what you think?
Well, the anchor of beliefs that I have, I think that's the thing. We're not getting off the topic of, what's it called? The prophet being real to start with. So how am I supposed to even explain to you what is true and false?
But it's
like, if you don't even believe that the prophet existed, then what am I supposed to say? There's nothing to say.
Can I just say one thing before we go on? Because although you may feel that we are a little bit harsh against you now,
no, that's fine.
I would say that you're probably perhaps the most sane Muslim that I can remember that come
Absolutely.
on the show.
Yes, I
because
second
you're
that immediately. Yeah.
Although that because you're arguing in a way that is polite and good, and like you're arguing in a real way. We may not find your arguments very convincing, but compared to most Muslims, you seem to be a relatively sane person.
Is that like a footnote right there?
Well, the operative is relative.
Yeah, no, but look, I think you're sane. But
okay, the point I never came onto this show and needed to like give you guys proof. It's more like absorbing, like, because I see a lot of the stuff that Thing puts up. What's his name? I forgot his name again. The Florida guy.
Introverted Smart.
Yes.
Well, there's only Rob. Who are you talking about?
No, I'm just talking about Introverted Smile. Like, there's videos that they put up, and then there's videos that I think the reason why I got into this whole field is kind of like, the whole Mufassir guy. You guys know that guy, right? Mufassir you guys don't know
it doesn't ring a bell. I think Glass. The main thing is there seems to be a contradiction, which Stops and Abu have pointed out, which is you say that you care about what's true, and to me that doesn't seem to hold.
Everyone cares about what's true. Yeah, correct.
Everybody claims to care about what's true, but in fact, when we ask you some questions, you go, "Hey, it's my subjective opinion, and you don't have to believe it." And when I ask you, "Do you care what's true?" you say yes. Now, if what you say is true, then we must believe it. It's not a case of would we lie to. It's not like what mood are we in? Do we feel like it's we'll believe it? Nah, not tomorrow. I won't believe it. If what you're saying is true, it should convince us. It's not a case of how we feel on the day. It's not a mood thing. So to me, there seems to be a big contradiction between you saying or claiming to care about truth, then giving us your subjective opinion, and then at the same time saying, well, it's true for me, it makes me feel good, and I'm not here to convince you guys. But in actual fact,
that's more of a throw-off statement, because you kept on asking me that.
But even though you're not here to actively convince us, you are.
No, yeah, exactly. I didn't.
But you are here to convince us, because if what you say is true, then we should be convinced. And it's the same for me. I am here to get you to question, and I'm convinced that what you believe, I reject that because I don't see any good reasons and evidence. And I think if you thought clearly and you use critical thinking, you would question this and probably become an ex-Muslim, like many others have. And every time they wake up, they give us the same story.
Nah, I don't think that's happening. The thing is that a lot
Yeah,
of
but
the
that's
stuff
because
that you
I'm
guys are
claiming
saying,
that your
you
critical
guys have
thinking is not
no anchor.
operational. Say again.
I don't think you guys have any anchor in what you guys believe in. Also, the like I talked to Stopspamming the first time I came on. A lot of the stuff that you guys are saying, I don't think, forget the like general public. It's not ever spoken of. Like let me stop spamming a question. I think it's Christopher Hitchens, or I can't remember what the name of the guy is. He was talking about moral philosophy, and someone from the audience questioned, if moral philosophy, if we don't get it from religion, or if we don't get it from like society, as in like as a whole, like because if you get it from society, then obviously slavery would be justified, because it was accepted in certain places. It's progressively, it changes and whatnot. But if we take, nothing is real and everything that is real is nothing. Like if we take that approach, that you have to bring proof for everything, then you would have to say that the whole concept of morality is just a figment of imagination, and the whole concept is basically based on personal preferences and whatnot. For example, why is what do you call the relationships between siblings?
Incest.
Yeah. Is anything wrong with incest, with proper protection or whatnot?
Okay, everything you
moral?
said now is totally flawed. There is nothing that you've said now that makes any sense.
Okay,
because
explain.
incest is something that is valued in Islam, but incest, for me personally, on the objective side, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't produce offspring. But subjectively,
elaborate
I
on
will
that.
say I totally condemn incest. Whereas in Islam, you don't have that luxury. You have to accept incest. You cannot go around it. This is the beauty between being a non-Muslim and a Muslim.
So you think it's are you saying that there is nothing wrong with incest if there is no child produced?
Oh my God, do I have to repeat everything? Number one, we have two different cases, Muslim, non-Muslim.
Mhm.
A Muslim has to be okay with incest. A non-Muslim has the option of being okay with it or not. I am not okay with it subjectively. Objectively, I cannot condemn a mother having sex with her son as long as they don't produce offspring, or a sister and a brother having sex if they do not produce offspring. From a moral point of view, I cannot condemn it, even though I personally do. Am I clear?
Can I take over?
Go ahead.
So I think the guy.
But Islamically, the Islamically part, you just said that Islamically Muslims have to accept that it's a thing. I don't think everyone's aligned with you with that, because I think the first cousin part is allowed, but I think that has circumstances on it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and you talked about siblings, so it's a little bit unfair maybe, but I think the guy that you were talking about was Sam Harris. So Sam Harris, because
No, it's Krauss.
Krauss, you sure?
It's more than one of them, though. It's not only one. I
Because
remember a few.
the guy that is most into moral philosophy is Sam Harris. But anyway.
Yeah, the philosophy, yes, but they're usually taking Krauss because he says, I'm not 100% sure that I am going to condemn incest the way that you described it when he was in the discussion with Hamzat sources.
Okay, look, but if we take, if we accept Sam Harris' view that moral philosophy is based on subjective experiences, so you need to have subjective consciousness, like in a universe, for morality to make sense, because in a universe where everything is dead rocks and everything, or every creature is just philosophical zombies, meaning they don't have any subjective experiences, in such a universe morality wouldn't make sense. So then you accept the premise that subjective experiences of well-being is better than subjective experiences of suffering. So then you can look at incest between siblings and see, okay, will this increase the general level of well-being, or will it decrease it? And if you can prove that it won't decrease it, then there is no good argument and they're not producing children and they're using condoms and whatever, then yes, we can't prove that it's morally wrong. But it's kind of, I feel that it's kind of unnecessary, because like
okay, the thing that I'm trying to articulate here by saying, I don't mean to put Stopspamming on the spot here or anything. What I'm trying to say is that you guys have a very, very interesting way of looking at the world. And I think you guys have only what? I don't think this channel even has more than 2,000 people. You guys, I think people should understand you guys more. But unfortunately, I don't know. I wish someday you guys get like hundreds of thousands of subscribers so people can hear you.
Stop talking. Put me on the spot.
Put you. Oh no. Oh no. You confused me. All right. I'm not trying to, because I don't want to, because we were talking about one thing. You guys are pretty much grilling. If you guys look at the comment section, are these people like seriously? Because they're like butchering each other. All right. But point is, is implied that I'm getting butchered. But I think the questions you guys are asking are much more. I would say the main question that you guys keep asking me is that, why do I believe, since there are no foundational belief systems that I have, like things that I have, you need to believe the religion. So why don't you leave? Why don't you guys kind of implied it.
Correct.
Exactly.
Why?
And then I changed it, and then I changed it and asked you a question. And now we're talking about a completely different subject. So let me finish up why. So I'm not getting butchered here. I know I went to college here. I've seen people on the other side too. I've seen what people say over here. And I know that there is a discrepancy on both sides, even within the intellectuals that we speak of in America. And speaking of which, the whole moral concept that we're talking about right now.
But Klaus, do you think you've brought up an argument that is convincing?
No, this is not. I'm not trying to argue against you guys. I'm just trying to say that, this is what's available. So what do you think about it?
Sorry, what do we think about what?
No, I'm just trying to understand more about the topics that were taught to me by understanding from you guys what arguments you guys present against them. And I think a lot of the stuff that you guys say are valid. Some of the stuff that are not valid. For example, you guys have this, like Rob was saying, the time that we were talking about the absolute moral philosophy, absolute morality. No, not absolute. What? Yeah, absolute philosophy.
Just absolutes. Just the absolutes thing is.
Yes, that whole thing. I kind of disagree with you respectfully. The reason why I disagree is because if you ask a question that's binary, the answer is considered to be absolute. Like if I say, is this good or bad, then I'm saying that bad. I'm not saying percentage-wise, 1% good and 10% bad, like 99% bad. But that's what I'm saying. Like if you ask a binary question, then the answer is always going to be considered a philosophical absolute. To my understanding, I may be wrong. I may be completely wrong. I don't know.
No, I don't think that's true.
In certain cases, in the case that you guys asked the question, I think it is. I think it was an absolute.
But there's a difference between something being yes and no and being an absolute. So, but you keep wanting to bring in the word absolute for some reason. And maybe that gives you comfort or it gives you a back door to then go back to religion. Because science isn't, quote, absolute, you then, as Muslims generally do, that seems to make you guys feel better in the sense that, hey, do you know what? It could change again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with my 1,400-year-old book because science seems to be changing all the time. And so therefore, I feel justified in believing what I think has never changed, which is my 1,400-year-old book. The problem that you have, if you want to go down that route, is how do you know that that's true and that hasn't changed, or that information is correct? You're a fallible being like the rest of us. So going down this whole absolute route, which is what we talked about before, doesn't help you in any way. It's a red herring and it's a backdoor to make you feel good and for you to have an escape. When we come up with something about science that disproves or contradicts your Quran, you will say, and Muslims do say, but science isn't absolute, therefore that could change. And in the back of your mind, your unspoken inference is, hey, at some point science will actually agree with the Quran. So we'll just wait for science until it agrees with the Quran.
Well, here's the thing. I don't have, like, for me per se, I don't come onto the channel to go and be like, hey, here, I got proof. Well, at least no, I don't. But the point is, like, this whole red herring thing that you just said, I think it's not exactly a red herring. If you think about it, the people that don't believe, they use the whole science in either to you know, explain certain things, but they don't have an absolute either. So how are you explaining without having an absolute? You get
I
what I'm
don't
saying?
use science. I
On the other
don't use science. I am one example. I don't use science.
Okay, so for
I'm not sure what
example,
stops means, but I would use science. So whatever our discoveries are, evolution, cosmology, flying an aircraft, developing
It's based on
technology,
science.
whatever it is, that's based on some principle of science. And when I use the word science, it's a broad spectrum across everything that people find out about in the natural world. So that could be philosophy, kind of philosophy. It could be psychology, whatever it is, that all falls under, for me, the umbrella of science. So whatever we are able to discover to the best of our ability with a maximum of evidence pointing in a certain direction, I feel we're justified in believing. Do you disagree, or do you agree with that?
I kind of would disagree with that. I think you can't, for me, science is more within the branch of philosophy where it's possible to falsify claims. I think it's too generous to say that the part of philosophy where it's not possible to test things experimentally, that's really science.
I'm not following you there. Are you saying that science is not the best methodology for finding out about the natural world, or it has limits, or
it's the best method, but I think it's a bit dangerous to make it too broad. For me, science is a method that is based on falsifiability, that you can test things experimentally.
Sure.
So, for example, when I say, for example, like I said this many times, like I would bet that the universe or the existence or multiverse is infinite. That I wouldn't say is scientific theory, because it's not possible to. That's just philosophy.
No, but that's just a limitation in the scientific method at the moment.
That will always be a limitation.
No, but if you listen to some of the cosmologists, if in fact there is evidence, we can see it in this universe, and that will point us towards whether the universe was infinite or whatever it is. We're going off on a topic now, but here's my claim, and you can disagree with me. In principle, science can. When I say science, it's not just like the empirical science. It's science as a general term, which means the investigation of the natural world could, in principle, give us the answers to most questions. And I know one can bring up the question of, which is better, blue or red? That's not the sort of question. That's a subjective thing. So what I'm talking about is finding out about the natural world.
Like in the question of what is better, blue and red, if you frame it in a specific way, it could be a scientific question.
Yeah, it could be, but somebody could always come up with an exception.
With the infinity thing, is that it's per definition impossible to falsify, because you can never infinity just go on for infinity. It's not even theoretically possible to test.
Because the shade is different for each person also, right? The shades of colors are different for different people.
Yeah, we're getting off on a tangent here. I think you are being too generous to Glass there, Abu.
What? I'm too generous. I thought that I am more strict.
No, you basically, his claim is that, hey, because science isn't absolute or can't give you absolute answers, therefore,
neither is he claiming absolutism either. He's just saying there's 99.99 continuous possibility of getting to absolute truth. You'll always have a 0%, 00 something percent possibility of flaw. Am I right, Abu? You cannot.
Now you're making many claims. I think Rob has misunderstood me, but my ability to express myself in English is more limited than science. So when you made this claim about the subjectivity thing, I'm not sure that will always be beyond the reach of science, because if we get an exact understanding of the mechanisms behind subjective experiences, then we can make that into a scientific theory in the same way as we make a scientific theory about the length of the wavelength of light, of specific light, of blue and red light.
Okay, but let's okay, that's a bit of, you know, it may not be the case. Let's get back to Glass's thing. Glass, you made the claim that because science is not absolute, we are not justified in believing it. Is that your claim?
No, not necessarily. Well, okay. Well,
What is your claim
cannot-
about science and being absolute? Just state your claim again about this.
You cannot. I think my understanding of science is that it's always going to be 99.99 continuous.
Okay,
correct.
let's assume
So
that's true.
therefore-
So what?
Therefore, one cannot. There is still that chance of fallibility. So
Sure.
is it?
So what?
One
Sorry, fallibility of what?
fallibility of being wrong.
Yeah, but
What?
that's part of the scientific. That's correct. It's part of the scientific process.
No.
never ends.
We need, no, this is not true. You need to distinguish what science is, because if I look at distance, the relationship between distance, time, and speed, there is never going to be a 99%. It's 100%.
Yeah,
Really?
but in science, you never. The last word is never said. You like
No, that
we
is
can be
wrong.
fair- we can
That
be
is wrong.
fairly we can be fairly confident that, for example, we will never come to the conclusion that the Earth is orbiting the sun, for example.
When the
But
sun's orbiting the Earth. Yeah.
but in the scientific method itself, like there is no end to investigation. You can always come up with new counter arguments and so on.
No, this is wrong. I don't know why people get this. You have conclusions, okay? You have conclusions which are flexible. But there are things in science which are laws. And those scientific laws are not, they're not going to be broken. They're not going to be changed. You cannot expect a pen to float upwards. That is not going to happen.
No, I
So
agree.
gravity
I
is
agree.
absolute.
That I agree. But like, even if we can feel that we always, if someone like get a more deep understanding of the physical laws and can make some kind of counter argument for why it's possible in this specific situation, then we should always be open to that, even if it's like
It's a different story. There, I agree with you. But the thing is that if we subject water to electric current, we are never going to get gold out of this. It's always going to be hydrogen and oxygen. There's never going to be gold.
yes, pragmatically, I agree.
So there are things which are not going to change. There are things which are laws. There are things which are absolute. There are things which will not be contradicted in science. So science as such does not always change. Yes, there are
That's
conclusions.
correct.
That is what we need to understand.
That is correct. What I'm saying is that we are always open to counter arguments. We're
That
never
is the
shutting
thing.
the door.
So if we look at the scientific method, that is absolute. But the thing is, you can't say that science, everything is always going to change. No, that is not true.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now I understand.
No, but do you think gravity is an absolute? So like the whole percentage.
No, you see, now again, you are talking about a conclusion, which is gravity. A gravity is never going to absolute. It's always going to be relative, because it's a conclusion. It is not something that is based on facts which are always going to be coming out with the same result, no matter what you subject it to. Absolutely not. I'm saying that some things are absolute and some things are not. That is the flexibility, and that's exactly what Abu was just talking about. This is what you need to understand, and this is why Muslims have such a huge problem understanding science, because they always want to have this certainty and this absolutism, which doesn't exist. You can't have that. So exactly the question that you are asking is showing me that you are a Muslim who has been brainwashed.
Look, the question of gravity is actually a very, it's I don't know if it was deliberate, but it's actually a very good point, a very good example.
Yeah,
Because
because it's
the-
not relative. It's relative to the gravitational pulls of different, stars and whatnot.
Look,
So
because-
technically speaking, if there's a comet beside us,
No,
the
no,
gravity
no,
will
sorry,
change.
no, no,
sorry,
no.
Sorry, Renabi, can I finish? Because when Newton,
Gravity!
so when Newton thought about gravity,
Are you like actually high? He said it in the
You
comments.
don't know Desert File?
Let Abu finish there. Let Abu finish
So-
there, and then I want to ask a question from the chat.
gravity is a good example because when Newton thought about gravity, he just looked at the effects of this thing, gravity. But then Einstein came along and saw, no, actually, gravity is just a consequence of space-time being curved. So a massive object like the Earth curves space-time, so this phenomena gravity appears. But now we have the probably number one thing that physicists want to figure out now is how does the theory of the Einsteinian theory of gravity square with quantum mechanics. So to get a theory, if we can get a theory of quantum gravity, we could probably get an even more exact theory of what gravity is. So that's a good example of
Okay.
how science is probably going to change.
I'm going to ask a question from the chat here. Please ask Glass if Islam is absolute.
I saw that question.
What's your response?
Islam is a absolute for me. Correct.
And how do you establish that it's an absolute for you?
We went over this before.
Okay, so this is where I'd encourage you to definitely do some more reading, thinking, and speaking to other people.
Here's the thing. Today, I didn't expect.
Disconnect. Yeah, no, that's fine. But there's a disconnect between you saying it's absolute for you and then giving us your personal subjective experience. And also then
Exactly.
It makes
Here's
me
the
feel
thing.
good.
I didn't know. Did you guys have like specific things that you guys were going to talk about today? Because last time I was listening, but I couldn't get in for whatever reason. I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding. So whatever. But last time they were talking about, they're going to talk about like orphan children or something like that in the end of the chat. Do you guys have like a specific thing that you guys were going to talk about?
Yeah, we talked about
today-
orphan children, and then you came on and we just chatted about other things. So I'll tell you what, we've asked you a lot of questions. Do you want to ask us something?
Yeah. I would love to ask questions.
Go ahead. And we're going to close it down in the next sort of 20 to 30 minutes, I think. So go ahead. It's your chance to ask us non-believers something. Not everybody has to respond, and we may have different views on things. So that's the other thing to bear in mind before you start. That stops Abu and I may have different opinions, because remember, atheism or non-belief, or let's just use the word atheism,
It's
is
not
simply the
universal.
rejection of the theistic claim. Now, Stops, Abu, and myself can have wildly different views on many different topics. So we are different to religious people who have very similar views on many topics because they've read the same book and they have the same views. So be aware that we can easily disagree. What we will agree on is that we reject your claim about your religious beliefs. But other than that, we could have different views. So with that said, go ahead.
All right, so the first question I would have for is stop spamming. Continuing on from what I was saying, like you do see how yes, what I mean by saying that you guys should have a bigger platforms in order to understand more from the society. I think you would get more feedback from more people that in that sense, if you guys had a bigger platform. The reason why I say that is because like you see the view that you have that you don't think there's a moral problem with incest, correct? So I think that is an issue that is and in Islam I think that the whole what do you call it, incest thing, it's very different. It's like cousin marriage is considered to be accepted, but besides that I was pretty much referring to like the Christopher Hitchens, not the Christopher Hitchens, or I forgot whatever his name is, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And that specific question, my understanding is that you guys have wildly progressive understanding of this world. Your understanding of how things how things do work is very, very different than, I would say, a good 70 to 90% of the world. And I would say even if we delete the Muslims and all the religious people, I would say even within the atheistic community, a lot of people would not be in line with
Give us
that.
one example. Give us an example, because you're talking in generalities.
Yeah, like that specific thing, like the acceptability of what do you call it, incest. But I'm not saying this. My point is, that's not the only thing. There's also other stuff like euthanasia. I think you touched on that, but you didn't say much. You think you said that. What's your name again? Rob. I think you did say that. You said that euthanasia should be allowed in UK,
I said
right?
the right to assisted suicide.
They should have the right to assisted suicide.
Correct.
Yes.
Under certain circumstances. It's outlawed in the UK,
yeah.
and I think that's wrong.
Okay, but
I think it's allowed in
Klaus,
Switzerland right now.
you're talking and talking and talking. If you, I don't understand your point. If you look at incest, is incest something that you reject or that you accept?
I reject it, of course.
Okay, so do you consider cousin marriages as being incest?
It's not considered to be incest within the religion, no.
Okay, so what you are saying is I don't like incest, and if it is incest, I say it's defined as non-incest because I only accept the incest that I accept as incest if it is defined within Islam as being incest. If the incest that is not being defined in Islam as incest, come on. What do you say?
I think you have an interesting
incest
point.
is incest. If you have incest which is within family members, then cousins are included.
I think Abu can elaborate on this. What's the definition of incest in Arabic terms in Islam? Isn't it like the people that you can't marry? That's specified.
It's specified, and cousins are excluded.
Exactly. So the definition of that specific, the definition of incest is different within the religion. It comes like the whole word.
So you think that cousin marriages are perfectly acceptable?
Yes, within the religion, yes, it is considered to be acceptable, and it is acceptable.
End of story.
Yeah, but we know it's not. It's detrimental. So what now? Now we have a conflict between reality and what the book says. So what do we do now?
It's a conflict because there are medical complications, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of research that says otherwise.
No. There is no research that says otherwise. You are now starting to. You are excusing incest. This is the point that you are not being you're being dishonest at the moment. You're not being honest.
It's scientifically correct.
Yes, there's overwhelming evidence that, particularly in Pakistan, but in some other countries, first cousin incest is rife, it's encouraged, and it creates abnormalities. So we know.
Yeah, exactly. And I have seen studies that claim otherwise.
Okay, well, your studies, show me one study that claims otherwise. Show me one.
Next show.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Let's get back to the other point, because I'm going to agree with Stops, and you said that most atheists don't agree. So you asked about incest, and obviously, I would agree with Stops as well that Islam clearly endorses incest, and you want to try and get out of it by saying first cousin marriages, etc., are not incest. Well, you're entitled to your subjective opinion. I'll go with the scientific evidence, which is that incest creates abnormalities in people, so birth defects, etc. So that's good enough for me.
And
so,
I don't condone it. I do not condone incest. I will not have the mother and son having sex. I will not have the father and son having sex. I do not condone that. I've said this before.
But you don't think there's any moral problem with it?
This is, you see, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get me to say something which you are going to use against me. Again, I don't understand why you're doing this. Objectively, there is nothing wrong with incest, regardless of what it is. Subjectively, I do not condone it. I actually condemn it.
Okay, but Stops. Now, just a point here then. But then his response would rightfully be he doesn't care about your subjective opinion. He only cares about
Okay.
what you think is objectively true. And his response to you, which I'm presupposing here, is, well, Stops, on what basis can you claim that it's objectively wrong? By the way,
No, it's the other way around.
but you've said it's objectively wrong.
No, subjectively wrong, objectively not.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so on what basis then do you say it's objectively okay? Would be the question.
Because there is no evidence to the opposite.
Cool, that's fine. And I'm by the way, I'm the same. I would have phrased it slightly different. So I wouldn't go the objective subjective route. I will basically say to you, Glass, that I personally, so I will agree in the following sense, that I personally think it's abhorrent. However, in order for me to justify saying that it is objectively wrong, we need good reasons and evidence. And if two people are having incest and they claim that it's wonderful and it's beautiful for them, on what basis am I, or in this case, on what basis are you to say to them, no, it's wrong? If we have some scientific evidence, whether it's psychological, biological, or whatever else, that we can say, hey guys, even though you guys think it's wrong, right, here we can show you that it's in fact wrong. You just don't know any better. You are ignorant of the scientific facts. So that's my position, is I would agree with Stops. I just put it slightly differently. But on what basis will you tell somebody who says, hey, I'm having incest and we think it's perfectly fine and look at how wonderful our life is, on what basis are you going to tell them that it's wrong?
And this is the point. You are defending incest because your book says so.
In the religion, like I said, Abu seems to know how to speak in Arabic and read Arabic. I think there's an ayat in the Quran that specifies the specific people that you are allowed to marry, the people that you're not allowed to marry, and that.
No, it's only excluding.
Yeah, excluding the people that you cannot marry. Yeah.
Well, you say what is allowed. No, it does not. It only says what you're not allowed.
Except. Yeah, it says except.
Okay, but Glass, is that the only reason? Because a book says so, or have you got something else that tells you that it's wrong?
Yeah, well, that's the Quran says that you're not allowed to marry certain people, and those people are.
Exactly. So you're defending incest because your book says so.
How?
That's what you do.
No, you went over this already. The definition of incest is different within the religion.
That's why you're defending incest, because your book says so.
But that's
what you mean is Stops. He's criticizing incest because the book says so, isn't it?
No, he says incest is allowed.
No, he says it's not.
It
no,
is.
I think Rob,
it's not incest. He says, okay,
no.
My definition of incest is including cousins, and he says no, cousins are not included.
There's a little
so.
Okay, but Stops. Even if we grant that, even if we say no. He whatever way he wants to define it's fine. So he would say that a husband and her son can't have sexual relations, and the question is it only because of the book, or is there some other reason?
Okay, that's a different question. Yeah.
So Glass, is it only because of the book? Now we're granting that your definition of incest is correct. We say that you need some evidence to show that it's wrong. We don't see any evidence. What reasons would you give a mother and her 20-year-old son? Why would you tell them that it's wrong? So they're having incest, and it's protected, and nobody's having any children. On what basis would you say it's wrong?
Because in the book it says it's not considered to be allowed.
Okay, so your only reason is because you read it in a 1400-year-old
we went over this like 2 minutes ago.
Okay.
That's it. So if the book doesn't exist, then what?
If the book doesn't exist, there wouldn't be a circumstance where the book wouldn't exist, because the book before would be in what's the book before? The Christianity.
Book before is the Bible, and the Bible allows incest because what's his name? Lot has incest. I mean, come on.
Interesting. Okay, interesting that you put it that way. All right, it's a good thing that you put it that way. The Muslims don't believe the type of the Bible that they have as of right now. That's common sense, obviously.
Okay, look at common sense. Adam and Eve, what did they have?
Yeah, it was considered to be allowed for a certain period.
So incest is allowed under certain conditions. Happy Islam.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Thank you for being honest.
What? There's nothing to be dishonest here for. What I'm going to say, that it's not allowed in certain circumstances? Yes, it is. I mean, like the whole, I think the revelation goes as,
Okay,
yeah, it actually
you are
goes, it
saying
actually explains that
incest is
very well.
allowed and incest is not allowed.
Under certain circumstances, which
Okay.
were like in the beginning of time.
And you think this is
That
correct?
time
This is okay. You accept this, and you think this is morally okay.
For that
acceptable.
specific time.
It is morally acceptable to have incest as being something that is totally okay.
That was the only possible way to have children.
So what you are saying is that incest, according to Islam, is okay.
Not universally, but for a specific time, correct?
There you go. Again, I rest my case for the 15th time today.
No, what's there to like be so?
The problem is there, Glass, is that it now becomes, it changes randomly. And as long as God can give a reason why, so it's not absolute, it happens whenever there's an exception, like the beginning of mankind, supposedly, then incest is okay. Now, this is a God that outlaws it for any other reason. So really what you're saying is that you're following God's arbitrary commands. That's what you do. So when you claim to have objective morality, what you actually mean is, I am following God's arbitrary commands. I cannot make the decision for myself, although you do. So that's a bit of a conflict for you, but you are following arbitrary commands. Whatever God commands, you must follow.
Can you explain Euthyphro's dilemma?
What was the last question? What?
Rob, can you explain Euthyphro's dilemma to him?
You've not heard of that one. Okay, so there's two options basically with morality. Is something good because God commands it, or is something good intrinsically? In other words, externally to God.
This is like a moral philosophy thing, yeah.
Correct. It's one of those two options.
God says it. I think it's God says it, and also the prophet delegates how.
Okay, but forget about the prophet, because we don't need to go to the prophet. We're at the God level at the moment. Don't worry about the prophet. So you say it's good because whatever God says.
Yes, correct.
Okay. The problem with that is then God can command anything and it's automatically good. There is no standard by which so in other words, you are just following whatever God says.
The standard is built by God.
So, yeah. So
yes,
it's
the
arbitrary.
Point.
The problem
that's
is
how
it's arbitrary.
Immoral it is.
Yeah, so basically the argument you're trying to present is basically a circumstance can arise where God says, oh, go kill everyone.
And that's good, correct.
Yep.
That's the argument you're trying to make, right?
Yep.
And this is the morality that you claim to be following.
Well,
do you see a problem there at all? Or can you see why we see there's a problem?
I see the problem there, as in you're going to bring up all the places where God says to go kill people, right?
No, what we're bringing up
is the thing. The circumstance. I think the thing is that because that's what the argument you're going to bring afterwards. Yes, I do think that what God says is what we're supposed to follow from a moral perspective. And in the circumstances under which God said to kill people, were under circumstances where it was for a specific reason, and there were genuine justifications for the actions committed by the people that followed the actions.
This doesn't work. It doesn't work because the Islamic text, the Quran, is supposed to be valid today.
No, it's not. You're supposed to follow it based on. It's not like you could just pick and choose and follow it whenever you want. Like, there are certain sentences where it says "Go kill the Jews." That doesn't mean for the eternal, universe. Whenever you find a Jew, just go kill him.
So if the Quran says "Don't eat pork," it doesn't mean don't eat pork.
No, that's a specific thing. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How do you know the one from the other? I just fell off my chair.
You cannot do vigilantism in Islam.
Glass,
you can't go kill people.
You really put yourself into a spot now. Come on. Think about what you've just said. Don't go any further. First, think about what you've said.
I think there's quite a few things that we've discussed here, Glass, and I want to welcome Harry towards the end of this hangout here. There's quite a few things. If you go back and listen to this again, it might be worth you having a good think about some of the things, because it does seem like at one point you're quite happy to follow God's arbitrary commands, but at another point when we ask you certain things, you then bring in your own personal opinion. And so, for me as I listen here, and this is not a bashing of you or trying to catch you up, but I noticed that there's some inconsistencies that it would be worth you going to revisit to see if in fact you can be more consistent. Now, I know you think you are being, but we're listening to you, and there is inconsistencies we notice here. And it's not because we're trying to catch you up. That's not the point. It is to have a discussion, but I can notice that there's problems that you have here, and it's not the first time I've brought this up to you. So, hopefully you can go back. The fact that you are prepared to accept God's arbitrary commands, but at the same time, when Stops or Abu or I ask you about slavery today, you go, no, I wouldn't accept that. Yet the book says that it's for all people, for all time. That's why I said to you, one of the biggest problems with Islam is the book is claimed to be for all people of all times. If you could drop that claim, you'd be, it would be much easier. But then on the other hand,
I think the overwhelming majority of the Muslim community doesn't accept that. No one says that it's for all times, as in go kill people for all times.
Yeah.
Like you take.
Well, the book says that it's whatever's in the book is for all time, unless you're going to cherry pick the parts that you want to have for all time, and then the parts that's not. And if you are going to do that, then on what basis are you making that cherry picking?
Yeah, I thought the Quran was supposed to be eternal.
Okay, so you go. Okay, this is I've seen this argument before, and I think let me simplify it the way I understand it. What you're trying to say is that the Quran has certain rules and regulations that are supposed to be followed for like eternally, regardless of who says what, right?
Yes.
But you cannot. There are like if you want to go kill people, like if you're actually wanting to kill, like cutting the hands off and all the had rules and whatnot, you cannot just act upon them without having a Khalifa. And then there are other many regulations.
Where does it say that?
Oh my God. That's the thing. I mean, like, I thought you guys would know this already. And Abu just dropped. I think he's the only person that I can use as a source.
No, Abu's here. It was Zoe that dropped.
What are you talking about?
All right, Abu, are you familiar with the rules and regulations required in either to enact the rules of had?
I think so.
Like, isn't it required for you to have what's it called? A court ruling, and also you have to have.
No. Glass, you're going into Sharia. I'm talking Quran.
Yeah, so the Quran's rulings are based on Sharia. You have to act upon it.
No. It's not the other way around. Sharia is based on the Quran, not the other way around.
The Sharia is based on the Quran, but the rules and regulations are set by what? Sharia, right?
No, this is the point. This is the whole issue. You cannot go and put Sharia above the Quran. You can't.
Okay, I think
you're making it like difficult. But he's talking about like you have to interpret the Quran through the Hadith and the Salaf as-Salih and so on. So then, yes, like in order to make a had, you need to.
You have to have a Khalifa.
Yeah, no, not necessarily a Khalifa, but you have to have some kind of Islamic institution.
A jurisdiction, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, where in the Quran does it say that?
Exactly. That's what I was trying to understand from you. You are saying that the Quran has to have a specific place where it says that these things before having had rules, being acted upon have to be present. What I'm saying is that the majority.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the Quran says it's valid for all times.
No, that's not how it's meant to be.
How do you know that? You see, this is the thing. You are now going and interpreting the Quran the way that you want it.
Let me answer that. The reason why it has to be interpreted that way is because show me one scholar within the Muslim world, even within
you're going to scholars. I don't give a continental fuck or fart or whatever. Scholars. I don't care about scholars.
So their understanding means nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
But why is that relevant? Because according to most Muslims, like you're interpreting the Quran through the Sunnah and so on. Like I see that is relevant for you, stop spamming, but why is it relevant for most Muslims?
Well, I'm saying that the Quran says it's valid. Quran is the highest level of the first, well, the first, the one and the only, and that is it. So you can't have a scholar who will go and contradict the Quran. So what I'm looking at is there any kind of evidence in the Quran for what he is claiming? And there isn't.
Yeah, but then they can say, okay, there are things in Sharia that is not mentioned in the Quran.
Correct. That's why the Sharia is wrong.
Yeah, but they
Do you
don't.
see how that's wrong? That whole the understanding you have, there isn't a single Muslim that ever lived that following the premise of following the Quran 1,000, like 100%, like just core Quran. That's it. Period. No hadith. Or
Should
no
I care
scholars.
about that? I'm looking at the Quran. For me, the Quran is the word of a God. And if a God says, listen, the Quran is the way that it's supposed to work, then I look at the Quran. Then I don't go and look at
The Quran says also,
who says, well, I interpret the Quran this way. The next guy is going to say, well, I interpret this completely different. I'm going to say it this way. That is not the way that it
but the
works. I look at the Quran.
The system of
But the
how to
Quran-
follow the Quran is not given in the Quran.
but look. The Quran also says like obey God and obey the messenger, and it's if you don't know, so ask the ulama. So there are the Quran points to that you should follow the Prophet, and like
Not only
if you
that, the
don't know-
Tabi'in too.
It also says the opposite. It says that you don't need any hadiths. It says you don't need any external explanations. It also says that everything is included in the Quran that you need to know. So this is exactly the dichotomy that you have in the Quran.
Yeah, but there's still like the absolute majority of all Muslims don't see it that way.
I agree with you. But I think it's wrong.
Well, absolute majority, as in 99, not even 99.99, I would say 100%. I can't show me a single Muslim that believes that you have to follow the Quran 100% without having any person doing any sort of ijtihad whatsoever. It's
Have you
impossible.
ever heard of Quranists?
There is no such thing. They're BS, man. They're not. Because look,
Simply that's why you get the 100%. Okay.
I think Abu is going to get what I say from this too. That the Quran doesn't specify how you're going to pray. The Quran doesn't specify how the rules and regulations are for doing.
Exactly.
So if a person wants to follow the Quran 100% for itself, then just what it makes sense.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it's humans who make up Islam. And that is the whole thing. The rules of Islam are made by humans.
No, that's an easy way to understand. Think that's one way of thinking it. But what about the Sahaba? What about the Prophet? What about the Prophet's, companions?
They don't count because you just told me that you have today's humans who are making up the Quran, who are making up the Islamic rules.
Abu just told you. I didn't even know this. I knew it, but I didn't know the exact source. Abu just said that there is a Quran ayat, but I can't remember it. That's why I didn't say it. He said it for me. Just pluck that out of my mind, that there is a few places, even in Hadith, it says that you're supposed to follow the Quran and Sunnah. Where does the Sunnah come from? What? Yeah, where does the Sunnah? Not only the Sunnah, I would say after that, the Tabi'in also you have to take like ijtihad and stuff like that from the Tabi'in. So you're just excluding all of that and saying the Quran is the book and period. I get what you're saying. Like if you're on an island, no one's living there, and plop falls a Quran in your hand, how are you going to follow it? You don't have any Tabi'in or anything. Who's whistling?
Sorry.
And that is why you have the Hadith, which are saying you need the Hadith because the Hadith are here and you can't do anything without the Hadith. This is circular.
I think we're coming to about the end of this one. I'm sure we can.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think let's move on now. We can go into an after show, which won't be broadcast live for those who want to stay on. But I think because obviously Harry's on, and whoever wants to stay on, welcome to do so. I'm sure Glass is happy to stay on for a little while longer. But Abu, can you round off the show, and then we'll go into an after show, which is not going to be broadcast live for us.
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay, I didn't bother to find this, but this is the hadith we were talking about before.
This is way in the beginning, right?
Yeah. This is like, I didn't find it on sunnah.com, but this is in Sahih Muslim. And remember when you said to him, Sayyid ibn Haritha, the freed slave, that the Prophet, on whom Allah has bestowed grace by guiding him to Islam, and you, O Muhammad, too, have done favor by manumitting him. Keep your wife to yourself and fear Allah, but you did hide in yourself, i.e. what Allah has already made known to you, that He will give her to you in marriage, that which Allah will make manifest. You did fear the people, i.e. they're saying that Muhammad married the divorced wife of his manumitted slave, whereas Allah had a better right that you should fear him. So when Zayd had accomplished his desire from her, i.e. divorced her, he gave her to you in marriage, so that in future there may be no difficulty to the believers in respect of the marriage of the wives of their adopted sons, when the latter have no desire to keep them, i.e. they have divorced them, and Allah's command must be fulfilled. And this is this is related to the Tanzil, the sending down of the ayah, Surah Al-Ahzab 33, Surah 33, verse 37. But is it really 37? Anyway, but is it this وَمَا كَانَ مُحَمَّدًا وَمَا كَانَ النَّبِيُّ? What is it? I opened Tafsir ibn Kathir. No, I don't know what to find it again. But that's the hadith of the day anyway.
Oh, before I forget to say this, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's this other person that I know that I would consider him, he's much older than me, so he may know much more than me. Is it okay? I'll just send you, is it okay if I, invite someone in, or I'll have him talk to you, Rob, to get in the show?
Yeah, I mean, we're going into an after show now, so if you can get his email address, I can add him to...
No, he's not available right now.
Oh, okay.
But to the next show. Yeah. If you can get any if you can get any sheikh on the show, that would be...
No sheikh is going to come here, bro.
Yeah, but that would be really funny.
Yeah, they're too scared.
Yeah, it's not a problem. We're going to an after show. TDS Dave may join the after show, so we'll keep it going. I want to thank all our panelists. Stay on, and we'll keep going. I want to thank all the panelists. I want to thank all the viewers and those in the chat, and we will see you next Friday, 8 p.m. UK time or 9 p.m. UTC. Thanks to everybody, and we'll see you again next Friday.
Good night.